Have all kinds of things back there. You sick? My wife would go crazy. She told me, but I'm gonna grab some of those peanuts and stuff later. Press
Of course.
pass. My wife gives me a pass.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Riviera Beach City Council Workshop. Today is March the 26th, 2026. The time is 6:13 p.m. Madam Clerk?
Mayor Douglas Lawson, Chairperson Shirley Lanier,
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Kashamba Biller Anderson,
Present.
Councilperson Bruce Guyton, Councilperson Dr. Glenn Spiritus,
Here.
Councilperson Priscilla Davis Panier, City Manager Jonathan Evans, City Clerk Deborah Hall is present, City Attorney Don Nguyen,
Here.
Madam, and let the record reflect, Mayor Douglas Lawson. Madam Chair, you have a quorum, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. Let's have a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Spiritus.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is not a regular city council meeting, it is a workshop. I still ask, are there any additions or substitutions for this item, for this 3 items, I should say? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second, Madam Clerk?
You-
Oh,
you-
okay, this is just, all right, very good.
I don't know what adoption of agenda on there.
I see, yeah, I'm going by the agenda. Go ahead, let's start with the first item, Mr. Evans.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you have 3 items on the agenda today for the purposes of discussion. The items are as followed. We have a discussion with regards to our advisory boards and committees. We have a topic concerning special events, and then we have a discussion about a proposed resolution on rules of procedure. The intent behind this particular workshop is to get policy direction from the board and get your feedback so staff can make the appropriate modifications and changes to the ordinance concerning your boards and committees, as well as getting direction on the ordinance associated with special events, and also getting some feedback with regards to our policy manual, and then consideration for an ordinance concerning some of your rules and procedures. So this is intended to be a collaborative discussion to really get some good feedback from the board so we can proceed forward. So the first item that we have is a discussion on the proposed ordinance 4295, that looks to speak on some of our advisory boards, and we have Director Casey Young and Mr. Adam Brody that are here to make the presentation.
Thank you, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, Chair Lanier, council members. My name is Casey Young. I am the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Riviera Beach. I'm here tonight to present on the advisory board city ordinances, a draft that we have worked on along with my colleagues. I'll allow them to introduce themselves.
Good evening, Madam Chair, City Council, Mayor, City Manager Evans. My name is Adam Brody. I'm the Library Director. I'll be speaking about the Library Advisory Board piece this evening.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Please let the record reflect that I'm here.
Madam Clerk?
Madam Chair, Councilperson Bruce Guyton is present.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Casey Young.
Got it. Okay, again, we're here to present on ordinance 4295. It is recommended revisions to the city ordinance, Chapter 2, Article 3, Boards, Committees, and Commission. This presentation will address concerns regarding district representation, staggered terms, and along with evaluation of prospective board members' experience. One of the first changes is to the overall ordinance, which states that there are one-year terms for all board members. We are recommending that we change that from 1 year to staggered terms. And to make that would be the one revision recommended for this part of the ordinance.
Madam Chair,
Let's go ahead.
when when they become staggered terms, do they still remain one-year terms but only staggered?
No, so that is one of the questions that we have, is that we would like to extend those terms for board members according to the bylaws for each board, so that there's not so much turnover as far as a one-year term.
I agree with the process of staggered terms so that it maintain continuity. My question is, once they are staggered, and you may have to do a 2-year term to get them staggered, what would the terms ultimately be for each board member? Once they're staggered, would it be 1 year, 2 years? What is the proposal?
We're looking, in order to make it staggered, we're looking for 3-year terms for some board members, 2-year terms, and then 1-year terms for alternate board members.
Madam Chair?
Wait, I have a follow-up. Once they are staggered, are all board members going to serve the same number of terms in the staggered process? Not to get them there.
Right.
After they are there, what would be the term limits of each board member?
So again, each board, as far as the bylaws go, we will add those term limits into the bylaws for each board. But again, the recommendation would be that it would be a 3-year term for certain board members, a 2-year term, and then 1 year for alternate. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question,
No,
or if I'm
you're not,
understanding it
because
correctly.
I'm not understanding why we up here serve 3 years, staggered terms. Huh?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
So we did not incorporate any term limits per se. So that's some direction that we need from the board. The way the language is, that until a successor is selected, then the seat would flip. But right now, that authority is provided for in the bylaws, but that is definitely something that we need to get direction from the board. If you would like for no more than 3 or 4 consecutive terms, and then that seat flips, that's one item that we need to get clarity from the board.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
maybe I'm not making myself clear. I'm not talking about terms and how long they serve. I'm talking about the years that they serve within one term. What would be considered a term? Would it be 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years? You're saying, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, well, some would have 3 and some would have 2. That doesn't make sense to me. Everybody should have the same term. That's where I'm going.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if
go
I
ahead.
may, that's what we have to do in order to facilitate the staggering.
No, I understand that. After they get staggered, do I need to speak Spanish or Creole? I think that's very, come on, Ms. Anderson. But seriously, all I'm asking is what would make a term? How many years for each board member? We have 3-year terms. We each serve 3 years. I know you have to get them staggered and get them there, but once they get staggered, what would be the term?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Go ahead.
it would be a recommendation for 3-year terms.
Okay.
Madam Chair? Okay. I agree. I understand what my colleague was just trying to get at. I think we're making this more difficult than what it really is. We already have 3-year terms staggered on the city council. I think you should have 5 members to your board. I don't know if you want to add a 6th for the mayor. We should all get to appoint 1 person on your board, and they should serve the term of the council member, which is staggered.
So again, the presentation is to provide some direction from council, and in that way, we can take that feedback and draft the ordinance to bring back at a later time.
That's my recommendation.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I think I like that one. And then who's going to monitor it? Because I know when I got on, it was a little chaotic about who was there, how long they had been there, who appointed them there, who got a person, who didn't get a person. So I think keeping it simple and something that when there is turnover, that person is responsible for choosing a member or retaining the member if that's what, the council person chooses to do. So I'm pretty much in agreement with Ms. Councilperson Spears.
So this is the Library Advisory Board piece of it.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Madam
oh,
Chair.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, does it not make sense for all of our boards to kind of be on the same page?
Yeah.
Like the library board, the planning and zoning, however,
Absolutely.
so that it is consistent and we don't have to figure out or remember and all of this different stuff?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So we, in this particular ordinance, we grouped what is the library board, the recreation board, as well as the education advisory board. The other boards are provided for in other parts of the code, and that, planning and zoning, they just had a modification to what their board structure is. But our intent is to align all our boards that we have throughout the city in the same fashion after we get direction from the board as to how they wish to proceed.
Okay, I guess I'll look and see what the planning and zoning is, and then maybe if it's possible, we can align it with that, if that is what we agreed to. Obviously, if we got to that point, that was something we liked, I guess, maybe. But if we can look at that and see if that's like the main one, the planning and zoning board, or there are others that I just can't remember.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
We do have, as part of the presentation, I think we have a comprehensive list of all the different boards, and then we outline. So what we would do is we would systematically go into specific sections of the code and make the modifications pursuant to the directive provided by the board.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Manager Evans, can you tell me, how does the housing authority work? I know the mayor makes the appointments, but does the city council ratifies it? How is it done in the charter?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
think it does come before the board for confirmation.
It did.
Yes.
Yeah, it just did it.
So do we have any say in how that works, or is that done by Florida statute or housing authority by charter? I don't know how that's
Pursuant
actually
to Florida
done.
statute,
Florida statute.
yes.
Okay. So are we going to do the same thing where each member would make a recommendation to the mayor? Does the statute say the mayor makes the appointments? How is that decided? Is it our charter? How is that done?
Talking about the housing board?
Madam Chair, if you can allow for us just an opportunity to look at that particular question, we'll be able to get you an answer hopefully before the end of the discussion.
Thank you.
This piece pertains specifically to the Library Advisory Board, Division 3, Section 2-76. There is a library board for the city, which consists of 5 members. The members are selected by the city council. All board members and alternate board members shall be appointed. Each member shall serve for a period of 1 year, commencing May 1st. Individual members of the board shall serve until their successors have been selected and qualified. Ordinance 4295 recommended changes consist of the following. There is a library board for the city, which consists of 5 members. The members are selected by the city council. All board members and alternate board members shall be appointed for staggered terms as defined in the library board bylaws. The library board must encompass members from each district who must provide a resume consisting of qualifications to be reviewed by the city council as part of the formal selection process. Individual members of the board shall serve until their successors have been selected and qualified. And this is kind of a layout of how it would look. Library Advisory Board bylaws overview. Once again, Library Advisory Board candidates must submit an advisory board application and a resume for review by the board liaison and city council. The Library Advisory Board will consist of 5 members representing each district and 2 alternate members. And this is how it would look. 1 member would be associated with District 1. That'll be Councilman Guyton. Another member would be with District 2, Madam Pro Tem Miller Anderson. Another with District 3, Madam Chair Lanier. District 4, Councilman Spiritus. And District 5 at large, which would be Councilwoman Davis Paneer. All board members shall be appointed for staggered terms as defined by the board bylaws. And as always, all appointments must be ratified by majority vote of the city council.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I see that the mayor doesn't have an appointment on the library board. Did the mayor ever have an appointment on the board, or is this not part of the changes?
At this point, there's nothing, the mayor can certainly recommend a candidate, and we can certainly look at that. But I'm not, at this point, we don't have something that's specifically tied to the mayor, much like we would from a district perspective. Is that something you would want to see?
What is the reason? Is there a reason why there wasn't previously, or that we don't have that in the recommendations?
I know historically with the current library advisory boards, it's always been by district when we have it in the list. It's always been kind of it's always been a situation where anyone can apply basically, and we would certainly look at recommendations. But if you feel that a mayor recommendation should be in there, we can certainly consider that.
I would ask my colleagues to support a mayor's recommendation for the advisory board. There should be representation on every board from the mayor's office.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Guyton.
I was curious to know how the alternate members will be selected. And let me finish. And maybe that would be an option for the mayor to participate in the process. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, at this point, alternate members theoretically can be from any district, because the idea was they would fill in the absence of another member or break a tie or something of that nature. But that's definitely something to, I think that is a very reasonable recommendation.
And Madam Chair, if I may. If there is a situation where all our advisory boards, we in fact look to make sure that there is representation from the mayor's office, then the recommendation would be to expand your boards to 7, so you can make sure that you do have an odd number of representation on the board. I think that's probably why the number 5 stuck in most of our board structures, but I think expanding it to 7, I think that's exactly what the board did to accommodate the modifications to the planning and zoning. You did expand the board to allow for multiple members to make sure there was representation. So we can do that if that's the pleasure of the board.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Miller.
But if we do that, then someone's gonna have to do 2, or, it's gonna be off. It's not gonna be just 1 per person, so.
Madam Chair.
Mayor.
Thank you. And I would actually ask, and I appreciate the recommendation, but I would ask for and look for an actual slot on the boards versus an alternate as a representative from the mayor's office, being that they're a lot. So with the extension then of possibly 7 seats, possibly looking at 2 appointments from the mayor's office. So whoever's sitting in this seat is able to actually assist with the appointments, because they can come from any individual within the district. And these appointments, do the individuals have to live in that district to be appointed by that representative? So with the mayor's office, it opens up a little bit of flexibility, similar to what we would have with District 5, and allow for the mayor to have an appointment.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I really believe that each district should have an equal representation on the board. I know that 5 is probably the most appropriate way to do it because it's an odd number. So if they have to vote, you won't have a tie. But if you want to add the mayor in there, maybe the mayor's vote doesn't count if there's a tie. I don't, you come up with something like that. But I think each district has to be equally represented at the table because these boards do make recommendations on a lot of money and on a lot of big projects. So I think it's very important that each district has equal representation.
So board, the staff's looking, I'm sorry, Madam Chair?
No, I was gonna say, what does that mean? Does that mean that we do 5 or we expand it to 7? And then we have a recommendation from executive staff or from these? I mean, I'm not sure how you're gonna do that. Go ahead.
Thank you. That was, go ahead.
Oh, Mayor, go ahead.
No, that was my question. Thank you, Madam Chair. Is, what does that look like with the expansion of 7? What is that 7th person? Because I would agree that my colleague is concerned. I think the mayor's office shall allow for 2 representatives that can actually represent anyone in the city at large. But if we look for a 7th person at staff, I just want to make sure the mayor's voice is heard when it comes to all of these boards.
Madam Chair, something to consider. If you do look to expand it to 6 or I mean to 7, then maybe the 7th person is where it's a nomination and they need a majority of the board support to effectively serve in that particular capacity. If you were to, so you will all have a say in that 7th seat if that's something that the board wants to consider. Or another option could be that you have 6 members on the board and the 7th only comes in if there is a tie associated with the vote. But again, these are advisory boards to you all as the decision makers. So how you wish to handle that, staff can make the appropriate modifications.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
I mean, would it be too, I don't know, muddy if like the director chooses the 7th person? Like, Mr. Brody can choose his, the 7th person. And any other director of the board, like the recreation.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
That is actually common in advisory boards that the department director or the executive does have somebody that is, or even a staff representative or somebody that sits on that board. So that's another option for the board's consideration.
I'm sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I still say that each member of each district should have an equal representation here. If the mayor gets 2 appointments, clearly that's not each district getting equal representation. Maybe the mayor's person should be ex officio, just like the mayor is on the city council. Or you can do it the other way, like if you want to have the mayor have someone and the department head appoints someone. But how do you still make sure that each district, that you're not overloading one district with 2 or 3 votes? Because you're not going to be equal representation at the table anymore. You'll lose that. That's why I think it should be 5 votes and the mayors can make a recommendation to an ex officio member.
Madam Chair?
So how would the mayor have 2 votes?
Madam Chair?
Hold on a
And
second.
if we take it to 7,
Talking about
if we talking about
Walton.
adding.
Madam Chair?
So hold on. So the mayor would have 1 vote, and then the 7th one would go to the director of the board.
Yeah, but what you're doing is you're opening it up where one district will now have more than one
I
vote
see.
at the
The
table. We're
district,
no
you mean,
longer
will have-
equal representation at the
I
table
see. You mean the
anymore.
district will have more than
Which is
1.
why I'm saying just have
I
it
see.
the city council and the mayor can appoint an ex officio member that won't have a vote. But we'll be sitting at the table like the mayor sits here the same way.
I see.
Madam Chair?
I'm Miller Anderson, and then you vote mayor.
I mean, we just need to keep in mind, these people only making I mean, I know the plan, some of them actually vote, but still, at the end of the day, we're the ones who make the decision. So I don't know that it's that important. Obviously, you want to try to have equal representation in each district, but if we want to keep it an odd number and to allow for the mayor to have a position to select someone, I don't have an issue. There's been times when it's been totally off, when you may have had 3 or 4 from District 1 and nobody was in District 2. And, so it wasn't, but at the end of the day, the board is the one, our board is the one that makes the decision. So just, keep that in mind. Even though they may vote on something, we don't have to take their recommendation.
Madam-
Go ahead,
Thank you.
Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. So just for clarity, to clarify the record, the mayor is not an ex officio member of the city council. Riviera Beach's form of government is mayor, council, member, manager. And the mayor appointments should leave some flexibility for the boards. So that's why I was saying give the mayor's office 2 recommendations. The city council ultimately votes on it and votes on who is actually assigned to this board. But this leaves the flexibility of having at-large representation, and the mayor makes a recommendation. The board ultimately ratifies it. So there's no additional power that's clearly going to be given to any individual person on this board. It's a recommendation, and the city council still ultimately ratifies it with the majority vote. So in the ability of the mayor's office not being ex officio, because the mayor's office also does still have veto power. So I want to just be clear with the ex officio role here in the city and versus the appointments and versus the advisory boards. But keeping in mind that these boards for many years have been very difficult to fill. But recently, over the past years with this council and with the movement and leadership of the city, and with having clear transparency, I think that people are excited to want to serve and excited to be engaged, and the boards are getting multiple applications. So let's leave some open flexibility for the entire council to ratify possibly 7 members and bring it to 7, and then look at a recommendation of maybe bringing two recommendations from the board, from the mayor's office.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Assistant City Manager Jacobs came up with a really good idea that I think the board should certainly consider. What about the opportunity to have a member of the youth council serve on those advisory boards to diversify the offerings to get our young people involved in that? Because if you're looking at library, recreation, and the like, it is good to have that perspective. And the Education Advisory Board already has a youth seat on there. So that's something for you all to consider for that 7th seat.
I like that idea. I like that idea.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
But, that doesn't help Mr. Spiritus's point with the
Oh,
district,
because
but
the
kid
another
comes from a
too, I
district.
see.
But I do like that. I do like that idea.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't solve the problem. I think everyone has to have an equal seat. We may not ever see the things that they vote on. They vote on things within the department, what event they're going to have next week or whatever, what programs they're going to do. It never gets to us. It never gets to the city council, yet they're making decisions that are going to impact the whole community. And I think it's very important that each district have a representative and an equal vote there. We do have an at-large vote. That's with District 5. Councilwoman Davis-Panier does represent all the districts and does appoint someone who represents all the districts. That's already done. That's built into the city council. The mayor does not have a vote up here. I'm not saying the mayor isn't important, and I'm not saying the mayor doesn't do, very, an important job for the city and have other authority that we don't have, like the veto power. There are things that he has that we can't do. This is just one thing that maybe he can't do that we can do. I just think that we have to have equal representation. Everybody, everybody's a resident here, and they should all have equal say, even when it comes down to the committee levels, to these board levels.
So how do we do that? I know that the Planning and Zoning Board is more than 5 members, isn't it? No, it's 5 members?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I believe the membership has expanded. I want to say, well, Director Young and Director Brody, you both work with Director Sermons for the purpose of that. What did they expand it to? Did they expand it to 9, or what was the number? It was a pretty substantial expansion. I'll tell you here in a second.
Yeah, it's
Madam
more.
Chair?
I know that it's more than 5, and I think that the Civil Service Board may be more than 5 as well. So, with that being said, do we bring up the other boards to 7 or 9, or do we decrease the other ones to 5? I mean, you're trying to have some uniformity.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
When did planning and zoning change the number of board members? And how'd they do it without the city council?
Madam Chair,
That's
if I
been a
may,
while. Go ahead.
you all did that, I want to say maybe a year or so ago.
And not while I was sitting on the board. I wasn't at that meeting. I don't believe I was. Uh,
So what are we doing now? Are we moving on until we figure this out? We can go to the next one? Continue?
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
staff needs some direction.
Right.
Yeah, we need to give them some direction one way or the other.
I mean, but we're stuck on whether it should be 5 or 7, and,
We just get a consensus.
all right,
let's
let's
make
do
a
it.
Can the consensus be, so are we gonna do the consensus as 7 with the mayor 2, or 7 with us, the mayor having 1, and then the director being able to choose
We
1
can-
as well?
We
So that's what I'm
can,
saying.
we
Which
can
one?
figure it out. Let's take one of them and see what everybody thinks about it. And then if we don't get a consensus on it, we'll go to the next example, the next,
Because the next
option.
item, I'm okay with the 7.
I'm okay with the 7 as well, the mayor having 2. You talking about with the mayor having 2?
Yeah.
Okay, what about you?
I'm okay with 7 with the director having 1.
Well, no, let's finish this option, and so either yes or you're not good with it, and then we'll
Well, I
come
have
to
a
that second.
preference, so yeah, no.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay,
saying, we'll
yeah.
have that be the we'll come
Okay.
back with that.
Okay.
So you're saying no, Mr. Spears, I'm sure yours is
Yeah,
probably
I'm
no, right?
not for the mayor having 2.
Huh?
I'm not for the mayor having 2 appointments.
He said no?
No.
Madam
He's
Chair, if
not
I
good
may,
with it. Yes.
if I can have Director Sermons provide a little bit of
Okay.
context about when we changed the advisory board and the composition of the advisory board concerning planning and zoning. And we were fortunate that he's actually in a planning and zoning meeting right now.
Oh, perfect. We can just look over there and see how many people over there, huh? Go ahead. Hi. It's on. We should be light on.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of council, Honorable Mayor, Madam Attorney, Clarence Sermons, Director of Development Services. For the record, yes, across the hall, we are holding a Planning and Zoning Board meeting at this time, and it does have the new makeup that was approved by City Council probably close to 2 years ago at this point. There were concerns about equitable representation between the districts, among some other concerns that led to us redoing the ordinance that governs that board, which is separate from this one at hand. What we landed on was creating 5 voting positions and 5 alternate positions. Each district is represented by a voting district, and each district, except for 5, also has an alternate for that district. For District 5 at large, it shares that seat with the mayor's office. And so the District 5 person nominates the voting member, the mayor nominates the alternate member for that district. And that was the discussion and compromise that we came up with to come up with equitable representation for everyone here for the board. And that's the current makeup of the Planning and Zoning Board. So it does result in a decent sized panel. When the board is full, there are 10 seats in total. But everyone understands that certain persons have a voting role, others have an alternate role. All can participate in conversations and discussion. If there is a person that is not present for a district, their alternate automatically can move up. If that person is not renominated, the alternate is first consideration for moving up into the voting seat. And that was one of the concerns as well. Making sure there's a pathway up for those who are in the alternate positions. But those are some of the things that we worked through with the Planning and Zoning Board.
Madam Chair?
Let me say something before, just to catch her up. So we were kind of doing a consensus on having 5 or 7, and that pretty much died because you were out, so it was half and
Okay.
half. So, but now Mr. Sermons has come with the example of what the planning and zoning does, so. I see where we are now.
Madam
So,
Chair?
Mr. Spears.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, I think Dr. Spears, and then
Okay.
we'll get to you, Mayor.
So this is exactly what I'm saying. This is the perfect way to have a board. Each member, each district has its representative, each district has an alternate, and everyone has an equal seat at the table. So the Planning and Zoning Board was done the exact way that I think every board should be done.
Okay, Mayor?
Yeah, Madam Chair. Again, and I think they were looking for a consensus. I think you had stepped out, but in reference to just expansion of the board and possibly taking us to 7 seats. So since it's just a workshop, I don't think it's died yet, but we're just still having consensus to give staff direction. And I believe that the conversation was expanding the board to 7 and having 2 seats that represent at-large that would be appointed or actually recommended by the mayor and then ratified by the board.
Madam Chair,
I see. Go ahead, sir.
since this is not a regular meeting, just a workshop, you still have time to chime in on your position on the consensus.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
my consensus has changed because I know we went through a lot of work to get that planning and zoning balanced and get it to where we wanted it to be. And after hearing you again, it reminded me of all the different iterations of versions that we continue to go back and forth on. So I support that, well, that
For the planning and zoning
example,
board,
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
organized.
So I take my, whatever it was, back.
It was 7 with
Yeah.
their
Yeah, but we'll support that version that Mr. Summers has.
5.
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
So, Mr. Sermons, you said that on the planning and zoning, the mayor's office has an alternate for the planning and zoning.
That's correct.
So not a voting member.
That's correct.
Okay. I know we had a lot of discussion about that, and I couldn't disagree that the mayor should have representation of voting on the boards and not just have an alternate on the boards. I know that there was a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth that went into that discussion, but the mayor's office should have some representation. And I know we talked in depth about it, but again, the city is continuing to grow, and I think the different boards should have representation from every position, including the mayor, because the mayor on the planning and zoning only has an alternate recommendation, not a voting recommendation.
Right, Mayor, weren't you a council person at the time?
I didn't agree with it.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay,
Ain't
here we
throw you
go.
off.
We need to come to some type of decision, consensus, and moving forward. Are there 3 in support of the way the P&Z board does it, or are we moving with the mayor having 2?
I'm with the P&Z board.
I'm
Okay,
with the board too. Can I ask one question though?
Yeah, that's.
And it's.
well, that's
and-
3.
There we go,
okay.
but she can ask
Just
the
one
question
question. And so that person, those people are appointed when the council, like if the council changes, that's when you all that's when they start their term?
Through the chair, no, the members are appointed to 3-year terms, and there is a defined start and end point to the terms, and they do not coincide with the terms of the elected officials. So whenever the term is up, that district representative is the term for the P&Z seat. That district representative is notified that they have an appointment that they can make. We provide any applications that have been submitted for review and reference so that the district person can make a nomination for who they would like to fill the seat.
Follow up. So
Yes, ma'am.
who maintains that time frame? Because once again, when I got here, it was not clear cut. And with the rest of the boards, like when I asked the question before, like, and we talked about when the new council person comes, then they select their own person. So how will this work as far as?
I think that, yeah, because even when I got here, there were people on the board that I could do nothing about. They were on the board, so I couldn't say, you got to get off the board because I'm the new council
I get it,
person.
but who's keeping accurate?
Oh, I think that each department is. Each department sends us every year. The clerk, and every
Okay.
year the clerk goes through all the boards with us anyway at the beginning of every year. So we know then who's on it when their time is up because that's a yearly thing that is brought to the board.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yeah,
that exercise is for the city
That's-
council members serving on the
I
advisory
see.
board.
Oh.
The clerk and the department is responsible for maintaining the roster of those that are on the board as well as when the term's set to expire. And then when you see the list of advisory boards, you're probably going to see boards that you didn't even know that we had. And so we're going to clean all that up based on the direction that you all, and then we'll be able to have a comprehensive list and inform persons, okay, this is what the terms are, this is what, so the more clarity the board provides us on this item, this will be the process that we look to affect all the boards citywide.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
The Housing Authority Board, who monitors that? Because I know that was way out of control as far as people being expired, their terms being expired, like 3 years, 4 years. I mean, do we monitor that? I know the mayor does the appointing, but who monitors that? The Housing Authority?
The Housing Authority.
Well, that might be something we need to monitor as well.
Well, we were having conversations about that board and about the bylaws that govern that board, that they should be in line with what the city is, given that it's under the city's
Right.
auspices.
Can
Madam
we look
Chair.
into that? Go ahead.
So the city attorney was able to bring up the statute that really talks about the structure of the Housing Authority Board, the terms, how it is, basically it is, Ms. Nguyen, correct me if I'm wrong, it's appointed by the mayor and then ratified by the city council. And so we would try, and then they're based on, there are staggered terms with regards to that board. So we can track and maintain that information for the purposes of having it captured here at the city side, but the Housing Authority really is the entity that retains all that information. So, but we can track it.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
but the thing is, the mayor is the one that appoints them, and we're the ones that ratify it, and it's being left unchecked because there were, until it was cleaned up when we did when he expanded it to the 7th and reappointed people. Some of them had expired 3-4 years. I mean, it made no sense how long some of them had been expired, but they continue because of the statute. They are to continue until they're replaced, but someone needs to, I think we have to take the responsibility of monitoring it. If whoever's in the mayor's seat is not going to be the one to do it, or if the Housing Authority is not going to do it. So, because that shouldn't be.
It should be just like any other board that we are over, that it's a part of the list of boards that the city governs, basically, because we do.
No, Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
and I think we need to wrap this one up.
Oh, now.
To the next
Madam
one.
Chair.
Now we want to wrap it up.
Madam Chair.
Now we
No,
wanna-
no. I'm just saying, we've really done beat this
Madam
one
Chair.
to death. We've decided, but Dr. Curtis, I have a question.
Before you wrap it up, I have another comment.
Okay, but
No,
I have a question. Wait,
Okay.
I have a question.
It's a workshop. Go ahead, go for it.
Is the Housing Authority a state-regulated board?
Yes.
And who at the state regulates the board?
Yeah. We appoint, the mayor appoints, we ratify, but it's regulated by the state.
Yes.
So how do we, as a municipality, and we're kind of saying oversee this state-regulated board? My question is, are we crossing the line?
I just think,
Wait, that's a
No, go
legal
ahead.
question.
go ahead.
So, you called on me?
It's created by
Hold on for a
statute.
minute. Say again, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's created by statute. I don't think you're crossing the line. The statute outlines what you're allowed to do. The mayor appoints and the council, and brings it to the council for your approval.
Right.
If there are any other requests that you have, you can make them of the Housing Authority Board. They are governed by their bylaws. They have their own attorney. I've spoken to him several times. I know he's worked on their staggering issue that they had. I'm not sure if it's completed or not, but I know he was working on that.
So one follow-up question.
Go ahead.
So our authority is the mayor appoints and re-ratify. Is that where it stops?
As it relates to board appointments, yes.
Okay, Madam Chair, that's all I have.
Madam Chair?
I think that it's governed by state statutes the way that the audit committee is governed by state statutes. Go ahead, sir.
Madam Chair, but as far as the Housing Authority, I believe Florida statute gives all the members a 4-year term.
40.
Four.
Oh,
4 years. And I think what the problem was before was the mayor wasn't appointing people when their terms had expired. They weren't reappointed, so they were just holdovers in their terms because there was no appointment from the mayor and no ratification from the board. So it's really up to the mayor to keep an eye on the number and their terms, because the mayor makes the appointment and then brings it back to us for ratification. But that's in the Florida
For the
statute.
4 years is in the Florida statute?
Right, and that's
Well,
all in
then-
the Florida statute. So, but on the matter with the planning and zoning, I think planning and zoning should be appointed the same way the other boards are. I think it should be appointed with the term of the member of the city council, of the district member. We should do the same thing, and that way they'll be staggered, and that way it won't be confusing to the members of the council or the public. They'll know that when their new council person comes in, that's when the appointments are being made, and they have a 3-year term. And it's real simple. It's easy to keep track of it, and the members of the board won't be sitting they may have different points of view on things than the person that appointed them at that point if they're representing a new member. This way, at least there's some consistency with the city council member's appointment.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So I think I said that I was in favor, at least 3 of us up here said we were in favor of the library board and all boards at this point. I mean, to keep them kind of consistent. I mean, but right now we're only working with the library board. I guess we will come back to the Parks and Rec one because yeah.
Oh, it's the library board and the education advisory committee.
Madam
That's what we're talking about tonight, right?
No,
Madam
library
Chair.
and Parks and Rec, we just did. These are the 2 that we're doing now.
Gotcha.
Madam
Oh,
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Just for as a point of clarification, Director Sermons, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 3-year term, but it doesn't coincide with the term of office with the elected
right,
official.
right.
Okay.
We're not,
coincides with
he's not on the agenda. Oh, so.
Madam-
It's not on the agenda.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to make, there's a difference from what is adopted now versus what is proposed. I just wanted to make sure that we get clarity from the board. If that's the case, then we need to go back
We would have to go back.
and reverse what
Right.
planning and zoning board has.
Talking about 2 specific boards this evening.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
so basically, we're not trying to standardize it, because that's why I think he
Yeah.
keeps saying that, because are we trying to standardize all the boards, or are we just gonna deal with these 2 and then come back to this other one later? Or are we
Madam-
saying at this point, this is how we want to move forward?
Madam
I know
Chair.
how it's been.
Commissioner.
Yeah, we're trying to standardize it. So we want to get clarity from the city council. What option do you like for the construct of the board? Because then, as you'll see in the PowerPoint, we do have other boards that effectively we're going to have to go in and make some modifications to make sure they reflect the collective desire of a majority of the council.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So that's why I was saying, we put in a lot of work trying to come up with something that was fair. I don't think it's realistic to line it up with whenever people, because what if I stay in for two terms and this one goes out at 1 term? You know, it's going to be a lot of juggling. It's not going to be consistent, because just because each council person has 3 terms, that don't mean you're going to win the 3 terms. So every time it changes, it's going to change that person. And you do want to have some consistency on the board, but doing it the way that we did the planning and zoning, we had all of these same issues, you know, with making sure we had each district represented. We want to make sure that the alternates had an opportunity to be a voting member at some point. And so when we went through the process of creating that system for the planning and zoning, we kind of ironed out all of the issues that we had and things that we felt need to be addressed. So if we're going to make it consistent with anything, I would say with the planning and zoning board, because that one, we worked through that one. The others, you know, it's just kind of random, or we haven't addressed it at all. But if we're going to make something consistent, it should be consistent with the planning and zoning, and having someone on each, from each district will be accomplished that way.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And just, I guess, my final quick question before we move on is, what is the process of actually replacing or removing somebody from one of the advisory boards? It was mentioned earlier with the election or somebody coming in that they want to maybe appoint someone to that board that represents their district. Elections have consequences. So what does that look like when it comes to a new member? If we're not going to keep it in line with the election, then what does it look like with appointing someone that represents a district when a new elected is brought in?
So from my
That question's for me.
understanding, let me
That's a
ask,
question for
yeah,
staff,
I
and
know, but
then,
let me say something, Mayor.
go ahead.
When I came in, there was a person already on the board out of District 3.
Mhm.
I didn't make them get off the board because I was elected. I just waited until their term was up, and then I appointed someone myself to that board. That person served like 2 more years after I got here, but I didn't take them off because now I'm here and I want somebody else to be on there. I just waited until their term was up and then appointed someone. That's how I did it. Now, I don't know how, and I'm sure other members have done the same thing.
And I think that was the recommendation from from Councilman Spiritus when it came to the appointments. That's why he wanted it in line with the actual elections, so that the elected body, once they come into the board, could appoint their board members. So I know that every 3 years that there may be turnover, but if the boards are in line with the different seats, and they need to also represent the district representative.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
But isn't the whole point is making sure that someone from the district is there? It's the district, not necessarily my person,
Right.
right? I mean, we're trying to make sure someone from the district is there. Obviously, we will
I mean,
want
it was-
someone that
I mean,
we know, or,
It
you know
was-
what I mean?
it was
Being
just-
realistic, I hear you, but
No,
we're gonna,
no, but
let's, this is a workshop, so we're gonna have real discussion. So, yeah, you'd like somebody from your district, but as a representative, you want the person that you represented to serve on that board that represents
I
the
didn't think
ideals
of
of
that.
what your district represents. You're the
Uh-huh,
representative.
Vice development is what I want.
So,
Madam
and
Chair,
I didn't think of that. Go ahead.
Madam Chair. So I mean, if I'm running on election, I'm just using this hypothetically right now, please don't take this, literally.
Hypothetically.
But if I'm running for office
Hypothetically.
and I'm saying I'm against high-rise development, do I want to put somebody on the planning board who is for high-rise development? I mean, I make my appointments, I sit down and I speak to these people. I want to know
Yeah.
what they think about before I put them on a
So you're
planning
saying
and
if
zoning
you-
board to make sure that they're in line with what I ran for
They
office
supported
on
you,
and what
period.
I tell my people I think.
So
in
you're
my
saying that if
district.
you were elected yesterday, I mean, yeah, you elected yesterday, and the person that's on the board representing planning and zoning now is for high rise, you would want to remove them?
I would think that I would want them to be in line with what my policies are and what I ran for. That's what the people in the district are supporting. And I think it should be done that way. When I got on the board, I inherited someone on planning and zoning. I didn't get rid of that person because I didn't even know how it was really set up at that particular point. I did reappoint that person, but does that person get another 3 years? Or did that person fill out the term of when I got on of his term? Or did he start all over? I can't tell you today whether that person has another 3 years or not. If it was just consistent with our terms, I would know. And I think it makes good sense, I think, for it to be staggered and to go with the 3-year term of each council member. I think that makes a heck of a lot more sense. And
But how could you accomplish that though? How would that work?
when you would have to start it at a certain point, like starting at the next
The people
election.
in, yeah, right.
And then,
Oh, I
and then
see.
at the election after, that person we get to appoint, that person we
see.
get to,
Yeah,
and their
So
term
that
would
person
end
would
when the
only
next
serve as
next
long as that
election.
other person serves. I
Right.
see. All right, so what does that mean?
I'm fine with planning and zoning.
Yeah, because planning and zoning is its own animal in itself.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
one thing we can incorporate in the actual language is that, if we were to look to mirror the same that's in planning and zoning, maybe it's a modification that you as the board at any time, district representative, have the ability to effectively remove person in that seat, and then the appointee will fill out the remaining term, and then the subsequent term, then, the district representative can say this, I'm fine with this person being in here, or I want to look to appoint that. We can insert that, and that can get you to effectively the same
Madam
place.
Chair.
yes, go ahead.
So I guess we have the flexibility to do that for these other boards, but I did not have that option for planning and zoning. Because I inherited somebody for my majority of my time here. And I mean, well, I did reappoint one time, I think, but that was not an option.
for planning and zoning.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, that was not an option. That's something that, just having conversation with the attorney that we talked at as another option if that's something. And now I will tell you, we would look to bring back modifications if that's something the board said. We would bring back modifications to the Planning and Zoning Board as effectively giving you the ability to remove persons and have an appointee to serve out the remaining part of the term, or when the term
That should be
expires,
across the board,
reappoint.
though.
No, the planning and zoning is, Ms. Nguyen, isn't that in the statute or something? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I asked you about this before, and it's something within the statute, you can't remove them until you have to wait for their term to expire.
Planning and zoning?
Yes, through the chair.
Yes, go ahead.
The statute requires cities to have a local planning agency is the term they use there, which is effectively our planning and zoning board. So we're required to have this board. It does not give us what our rules are in terms of appointing and removing. That part is governed by our ordinance. For the planning and zoning board, it gives causes for removal. I think missing a certain number of meetings is cause for removal. And when we updated the ordinance, I think it expanded that language a little more for certain types of inappropriate behavior or something of that nature. I didn't review it right before this, but there's language about what situations allow for the removal of a member. It's not situated at at just simply the desires of the district representative, though. I can't
Right,
say
but that was mandated based on an ordinance, you said?
correct.
Okay, so that could be modified.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Have the votes to
Yes, go
modify it.
Yeah,
That's
we
what
would
happened.
make the modification to that to add that at the discretion of the district representative, you do have the ability to remove the appointee. That is the appointee of the respective district.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
So I think that we should have the terms for planning and zoning coincide with the terms of the elected officials, but we should also have the ability to remove the people that we appoint to a position.
Madam Chair, if I may.
go ahead.
I will speak just for the planning and zoning board at the moment, because it is a state required board and it requires familiarity, excuse me, with the complex nature of land development, the comprehensive plan, state, federal, and local regulations. There's a lot of onboarding, training, and getting persons up to speed and understanding the process of the planning and zoning board, which is one of the reasons that we have 3 groups that are staggered terms, group A, B, and C, all having 3-year periods. And so at any given time, only a small number is rolling over because we do need continuity in the knowledge and understanding of the processes and what the board works to accomplish through the planning and zoning staff. So in that situation, it would not be ideal to create a scenario where there's more turnover. But again, this is speaking from my experience with the amount of work that it goes into training and onboarding planning and zoning board members and their responsibility to the state and those requirements. So to that point, I would say it may not be one size fits all when it comes to the amount of turnover with boards, what works and what doesn't. But I just wanted to provide that staff perspective for this particular board.
Madam Chair.
Follow up?
Follow up.
Okay, so then I just think that it should coincide with the city council members' term. We could start it at the next election. The representatives, the 2 representatives, we get to appoint people for a 3-year term on planning and zoning or any other board. And then in the next election, those people get to appoint their people on the boards for their 3-year terms. And then we'll have staggered terms in all the city, on all the city boards.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
And to that point, I think that we have to be very clear and understand that planning and zoning and these other advisory boards are completely different. They're different powers and responsibilities. Planning and zoning makes formal recommendations and here's the different items before the board versus some of these other advisory boards. So I don't want to model what we created for planning and zoning and had in-depth conversations with some of these parks and recs and library and other advisory boards. We want to simplify some of the boards to make it easy to attain, easy to get involved and get representation from every board. So I think we're combining the recommendations, and I don't think we should. I think we should keep our other advisory boards separate from P and Z. And that was why I recommended that we expand the mayor's role, because P and Z was an in-depth conversation, but they do make formal recommendations where they're hearing, and as Mr. Sermon says, there's proper training. So you don't want to make that turnover as contentious on P and Z versus some of the other boards where we want to have more flexibility with the other boards.
Madam Chair?
Let's go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I'm not recommending making anything more difficult. I'm just recommending that the planning and zoning stay the same way they are, with the same authority, same powers, everything, just that their terms coincide with the appointee's term. That's all.
And
Nothing, we're not taking any authority, we're not taking anything away from them that they don't already have. All we're saying is that the term coincides with the person who appointed them.
And to that point, I think Mr. Evans was just trying to give a point of reference, but this is not on the agenda. The
Right.
P and Z is not in the discussion. So it was just a point of reference for the board. So I think that this was to give us some food for thought. I don't think we take this recommendation, we keep P and Z as is, as stated, but this was just to give us an understanding of how to proceed. I think we proceed with our other boards in the fashion that we're looking, because I believe our other boards have different terms as well. Are these other boards 1 year? The Parks and Recs, I believe, is 1 year
We
terms?
just had that whole conversation. Did you miss that?
What I'm saying is that the recommendation that the consensus of this board just gave is to mirror the other boards against P and Z.
No, I was talking about the 1 year, when they were asking, do they have 1 year terms?
Mhm.
And we went back and forth for a lot
Well,
of
I
times.
ignored that.
But
But with that same point, I don't think that our other advisory boards should be mirroring P and Z. We should leave P and Z because we did the research, the work, and the effort to allow for them to do that part. But I think these advisory boards that we're talking about on tonight's agenda, we should take a look at these recommendations and still take it in consideration, giving a voice to the mayor's seat and possibly a staff recommendation.
Okay,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you. So where are we? We need to move to the next item. Where are we now?
no, I think Mr. Sermons probably want to go before we disband the whole planning and zoning board in a minute. He's like, I didn't even come in here for that.
So what are we,
So-
what are we looking at? We're looking at making sure that, looking at what that looks like, how to line up the individuals with the council people, what that looks like. I mean, it doesn't have to be voted on, but give us an idea what that looks like. And also to give us an idea of the expansion. We're not settling this tonight. We just want to see what that looks like. Can you do that?
Right, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, when we started this, the city manager just suggested that what we discussed tonight, he might be able to incorporate into all the other boards and make it simple and be able to bring it to us in the future based on what we're discussing tonight and the recommendations that we're making tonight. That's why we're having this discussion about planning and zoning. And it was good to hear how planning and zoning went through a very difficult process to get to the point where they did. We're just looking to make a very minor change to the process that the board went through, for a long time to come up with the numbers and the votes and how they created that board. And like I said, just a minor change. Everything that you did previously makes sense. We're just saying, just have it coincide with the person that appointed that person. It makes more sense politically and from, a working situation for the board member themselves.
All right, very good. Mr. Evans, what is that you're going to do? What did you hear from all of that? How did that tell me what did you hear? And we'll tell you if that's what we want.
Madam Chair, I can make it real simple.
What did you learn today? Go ahead, sir. Yes.
What I believe I heard. So the planning and zoning board, take what are certain elements with regards to the representation of the planning and zoning board to effectively expand out to all our advisory boards, add in and this is where I need some clarity from the board. Do you want it to run with the district representative, or do you want a provision in there, or you can have both, where you could remove a member at whatever time you deem appropriate once it's an agended item, but to mirror what are the construct and the representation of the planning and zoning board for both the recreation and the Parks and Recreation board. That's what I believe that I got from the board. But one thing for clarity's sake is that it does and I believe Director Sermons, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a situation where in the District 5 representation, it's a recommendation by the mayor and then confirmation by the council for that District 5 seat. So
The alternate.
or the alternate.
Oh, the alternate.
Yes, right, the alternate, right. So if that's what I believe that I heard from the board, so that's at least the baseline that we would look to layer over all the advisory boards.
Is that amenable to everyone?
Well, Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
can you bring back what they will look like especially with the staggered terms? Like how much turnover will we be looking at in order to make it line up with the council people?
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and then also, I do like the part, well, I don't like it, but if we're gonna do it, to put it in there aside from the planning and zoning, where the council people will have an opportunity to remove someone, if it's not who they want to keep in that position.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair?
Yes,
just-
go ahead.
Just to make a point, on the Recreation Board, there is language in the ordinance that states that members shall hold office at the will of the city council and are removable by city council upon written notice. So that language is in the Recreation
Oh, it's
Board
already-
ordinance, but it may not be in all ordinances.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And we can look to incorporate that language.
And
Is it effectively, so we will go through the advisory boards and make that change. Now, there are some situations, and I think, can we go to the list of advisory boards?
Do we have a list? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so these are the list of different advisory boards. Now, of course, your pension and civil, those boards are a little different. So we're going to look at those. So we're going to try to go through here, and we'll take probably the easiest ones first and bring it for your consideration. But this is just a list of the different advisory boards that you do have, and some of them are newly created, like the Public Arts Advisory Board. And so as we make our way through this, some of this may be codified in statute and may have some specific parameters that we have to follow. So we will go through those to try to match it up with the legislative intent of the board. And then when we do bring you that ordinance, we will strike through and underline what are some of those changes, so you have that for the purposes of understanding what the modifications are. But we will try to mirror what's provided for in planning and zoning. Now, question, does the board wish us to make or add in language or modify the ordinance that provides for that separation language for P and Z as well?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right, very good. Thank you, sir.
And Madam Chair, just as a point of clarity for staff to go back and make these modifications, when we do make these modifications, obviously the ordinance will supersede the resolution, because some of these give those authorities, some of the construct of what we talked about is provided for in the bylaws. So we'll make sure there may be some modifications to the bylaws that accompany the ordinances to make those changes as well.
Yes, go ahead.
So would we be also, I guess there's a question for the board, term limits? I mean, the council has term limits, so would
Yeah,
you
I would think so.
essentially, it would be
Yes.
the same
Yes,
for the boards?
I think so, yes.
Yeah? I mean, that's something that's not in there already, so that would
But
be
no,
something we
we
need
definitely
to
want to
add.
add term limits.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I would, again, just injecting a staff perspective on there, it can be difficult to find volunteers, and we don't want to downplay that. There are, sometimes these seats go unfilled because we're not getting candidates that are applying to the seats. And if the board has the ability to remove someone without cause, I think it allows the turnover if someone is not pleased with them. But if someone is doing a good job, the district seat person is happy with them, I don't know if it would help us in our administration of the boards and training and filling these seats if someone just has to get off because of a term limit. So in this case, it may not be the easiest for us to keep up with everything and keep up trained and active members. And there's also a component of finding volunteers who are not only committed to it, but also have the time. Some people, have good intentions, but just can't make it, and work conflicts and things like that. So again, that from the staff perspective, that is something that we've dealt with as well.
Madam
I'm
Chair.
fine. Yeah, that makes
I'm
sense.
fine with
Okay.
that.
Yeah, we have the option to take them on.
And Madam
fine
Chair,
with
we can provide a situation where if it's the board's desire, we can provide that, if it is a situation where a member is removed, there's a 30 or 60-day notice that's provided for that particular person and allow for you to fill that particular seat. So they can serve, or language that they can serve until a successor is brought forward. So, okay, you're removing said member, it takes 2 months to find somebody to fill that seat. Until that successor is named, that person finishes out the term that's provided. So there's not a lapse in coverage.
Very good. You got it.
Madam Chair? Yeah,
Yes.
so I don't think we should have term limits either. I think that there are qualified people, it'll be hard to find, especially when it comes to planning and zoning. And some of these other areas, we have to do a lot of research and education, could be even the housing authority. So I don't think we should put term limits on.
Very good.
And Madam Chair, I'll tell you also.
Last thing, go ahead.
Okay, some other municipalities also provide for, if members go through like Citizens Leadership Academy, that they are in essence given another tier. Their application scores higher because they have gone through, that particular type of program. So if you wanted to say Citizens Leadership Academy or Youth Council, those applications rank higher than Joe Q Citizen in the application process, because there is recognition of 9 weeks or 10 weeks persons have gone through a process. So something to consider.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Sermons. All right, thank you guys for your presentation, and we're going to move to the next item. Madam Clerk.
Madam Chair, the next item is 2B, workshop discussion and policy direction regarding proposed modifications to the City of Riviera Beach Special Events Policy and Procedures Manual and potential related amendments to Chapter 10, Article 4 of the City Code of Ordinances.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair and members of the board, the item that's in front of you this evening concerning special events has two components of it. One being what is the special events ordinance, that is the governing policy that was adopted by the board to call out what is a special event. And then we also have what is the policy that is the staff internal document that staff looks to use it as the guiding principles for the special events process. And so we do have a group of speakers that will talk about some elements associated with the ordinance as well as the policy, and then seek direction and clarity from the board as to how the board wishes to proceed. So at this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Assistant City Manager Deirdre Jacobs to make introductions of the folks on the panel and then to begin the presentations. Manager Jacobs.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Good evening, Mayor Lawson, Chair Lanier, other council persons in your respective places, City Attorney Wynn, City Manager Evans, City Clerk Hall. For the record, my name is Deirdre Jacobs. I'm the Assistant City Manager here with the City of Riviera Beach. This evening, we'll be presenting to you the special events program, and we're hopeful that as a result of the program, we'll be able to better understand your desires and receive comments from you as to how we move forward with making any changes, adjustments to the program in terms of where we are right now and where you'd like for us to consider moving forward. I'd like to introduce our staff that works with the special events program. Ms. Eladia Frank, she's the special events manager. Mr. Privateer, he's from the police department. Stephen Gould, he's with the HR department, and Chief Golden is with the fire department. I also see Mr. Mercy is in the audience because they also play a part in our special events program. Also, I'd like to introduce Attorney Richard Rouse. Mr. Rouse has met with our committee, and we're in the process of establishing a relationship with him because we know that special events, even though it's centered around entertainment, fun, and enjoyment for our residents, our visitors, We know that it is quite a serious program, and we wanted to apprise you of all the legalities that are associated with the conduct of special events activities. Mr. Rouse is thoroughly versed in terms of special events and how we need to be able to establish a program where we can actually protect the city and be in a position where when we put on these particular events that we're able to protect the city and create barriers and systems wherein we minimize the risks that are involved in special events programming. So with that said, Attorney Rouse, if you would go ahead and start the presentation.
Sure. Good evening, Madam Chair and City Commission. I was asked to evaluate the systems that are in place relative to special events. And as an old personal injury lawyer, I'm going to just give you some background from this side that, you know, I've seen the light and I represent cities now as opposed to suing them. But I'll give you a horror story with this city. There was a situation in September 1st, 2012, where you all allowed a Sweet 16 party to occur at the Newcomb Hall. And gang members from Lake Park entered the party at the request of members inside the party. And you had requested that the party organizer have police and have insurance and provide security. Well, unfortunately, because I was the attorney representing the party, there was a shooting of 16-year-olds. 3 of them, I believe, were shot and 2 were killed. And what we found, I mean, what sealed the case for us in that instance was that you had a police officer on stage with the DJ dancing. That didn't help. That didn't help the city's case. But you likewise had an inadequate number of police attending the event. And what laymen don't understand is that there are standard protocols for events. The American Society for Industry Security, as is the preeminent organization that sets forth how many police you should have for an event based on the number of people. A threat assessment needs to be done prior to the event by the police. If you're having an event that you know is going to attract gang members, that likewise should be added into your threat assessment, as well as the population of people that are in demographics of the people who are going to be there. These are just basic things that need to be done. What a lot of municipalities don't recognize is that not only are the events that are held on your facility your responsibility ultimately, but there is something within the law called the foreseeable zone of risk. And the foreseeable zone of risk is, for instance, you have and I hate to use it because I love going to the old school reunion, but annually you have this concert series, and across the street there are people who park in lots every year. And you know they park in those lots every year. That is within your foreseeable zone of risk, and whether you realize it or not. Another war story is I represented a young family whose son got killed as a result of an illegal party at the Boys and Girls Club in Belgrade, and the son was parked across the street where everyone parked. And as he was making a U-turn in the middle of the open street on Avenue and on Martin Luther King Avenue in Belgrade, he was hit by a bullet from shooting gang members. Well, the Boys and Girls Club was held responsible for that because where the young man parked was in the foreseeable zone of risk. And there is a case called Sherburne versus Holiday Inn, where the Holiday Inn in Fort Pierce had a nightclub inside of the Holiday Inn, and people parked across the highway in an open lot. and there was a shooting in the lot, and the city was held, I'm sorry, the Holiday Inn was held responsible for the lack of security because there have been stabbings and other criminal offenses in that lot. So when looking at what the security ramifications are for any event that you are having, you certainly have to have your police involved who are utilizing standard recognized security standards of procedure, which can be verified, because when plaintiffs' lawyers bring a case, a city or a municipality or a large entity that has done something has a much better chance than an entity that has done nothing. And so putting protocol in place and then making sure that that protocol is followed is the preliminary step of reducing your liability to lawsuits and to protecting the public. If you have any questions, I'm here and ready, able, and willing to answer them.
Any questions so far? On board? Okay. So we're moving on with the presentation.
Sure. Okay, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I just, if there are no questions, I wanted to just summarize what Attorney Rouse just shared with us.
Okay. I didn't know what we were doing, so
No,
that's why I
no,
was like,
that's okay. That's okay. When we talk about special events and the protocols and systems that are put in place in order to carry out those particular events, the information that he shared with us is critical as far as staff goes. If you see there usually exists a committee that works in order to go through those applications to make sure that certain areas, that attention is paid to those certain areas, and it's for a reason. So when we get the applications, when we have deadlines in place, when we have criteria that's in place for us to review, it's because we really do understand the seriousness that is involved in conducting a special event activity. And we want to make sure that we put all of our efforts into whatever the activities are, because we're thoroughly aware of the repercussions that could arise if we don't do that. So when we speak of the time and the diligence that we put into all of these efforts, we do it because of those particular reasons that Attorney Rouse just shared with us. And it's ultimately to protect the city. They really are serious special events, even though they may not seem to be that way, they are. So thank you for your attention.
Madam Chair? Okay, thank you, Attorney Rouse, for being here tonight and just for giving kind of the risk and the liability. I guess staff just needs clear direction and understanding as to what the council would like to see when it comes to the special events policy and how do we actually define special events. There's ambiguity in this policy because when you look at it, it's very, it could be anything. And I guess that's to cover or protect the city. So I think that there's confusion amongst all of my colleagues and also some of the different staff members as to what an actual special events represents. When you increase the number of patrons for a special event, your risk and liability increases exponentially. From 5 to 500 people is a huge difference when it comes to those two. So that legal responsibility doesn't really change if a slip and fall happens in this marina with a party of 20 people versus an event with Old School that may have 5,000. But the concern is the risk increases. So what does this look like as a board as regards to what triggers a special event? How do we define a special event? And what are the actual requirements for going through the special events process? That's all staff is looking for so that we can all be on the same page. Timeline. Are we going to build out the special events? I know that sometimes our special events department gets overwhelmed because we have so much. So giving them the additional support. Do they have enough support for the number of special events the city has? This priority is we want to make sure that events are represented and this community is truly about the best city to live, work, and play. So making it something that we can make a leverage for the outside promoters for the city to get through the process in a timely, fashion that fits all the requirements to be legally defensible. Very simple. That's all staff really wants, and that's just what we have to give them. There's been too much confusion because when I have a conversation with my CRA versus my city staff, there's ambiguity and confusion when it comes to what's the process. So I want us to properly outline it, properly define it, and make sure it's clear because I want to define what special events. Because if we read this, the events that I've seen throughout the city, I know did not go through the special events process, but they're outlined in our special events definition in the policy that was adopted. Mr. Evans, what date was the special events policy previously adopted by this board?
Madam Chair, I'd have to refer to the special events manager. She would be able to.
It was adopted July of 2021, and in July of 24, there were some minor changes as far as fees and,
Minor changes, right?
yes.
Thank you, Director. And as of recently, within the last few months, I've had meetings with my CRA. There's some confusion and ambiguity. So thank you, Director Mercies, for being here tonight. But I need them to also be clear with what's the role. If we're hosting an event in this ballroom, does a wedding have to go through a special event? I would like to see a parade for the state champion Suncoast Chargers that won the first state championship in 36 years. What is that process? Because in the policy that's here, the number 2 thing says, I'm trying to find the policy, it says parades. I'm sorry, the first thing. A special event is defined as any parade, fair, show, festival, carnival, party, motorcade, pretty much any time that we do anything in the city. So to provide the legal defensibility for any attorney that's going to come after something that happens within the city, what direction does staff need, and what is the clear language? Is every event, does it get triggered by 50 people, 60 people, 75 people? So if we just give staff that clear direction.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Provided in the special events presentation, there are questions and there are certain elements that staff wants to get clarity from the board. By providing us the clarity associated with this, it will expedite and provide for cleaner processes associated with the special events process. So the special events manager has gone through and has a presentation that looks to outline things that can make the special events process a lot smoother and a lot more understandable for folks, separating the difference from a rental and a special event and the process that the organization needs to undertake. So those are provided for in the presentation.
And just to follow up to that, Madam Chair, I don't think that the policy has been consistent since 2021. We need to make sure we consistently follow the policy, and if it's been implemented since 2021, making sure it's on the same page and everyone is treated the same when it comes to this policy. So let's just make sure that we have that in place. But
if I may say something, what I have seen and which I think is the gold standard for whether an application for a permit for a special event is any event where there are going to be 10 or more people on your city property.
And Madam Chair, to that point, I think that I have a list here. West Palm Beach is triggered at 50, Fort Lauderdale is 50, Juno Beach is 30, Hallandale Beach is 100. There's a tiered scale. So even with that recommendation, that is 10 people because that's legally representing as an attorney. But municipal agencies and the ability to actually manage and oversee a policy for events that come to the city. The city hosts events every week. There's something that's happening in our community. So trying to trigger a special events policy for 10 people is going to be difficult versus possibly looking at a tiered system. So I want to make sure that if we have different facilities, that what actually triggers it, and then what's the timeline to actually respond to them. Because I think our policy has 60-day lead time. We may want to bring that down and get additional staff so that it can be handled within 30 days. So that's where we want to make sure that we can get this done properly.
What I said was that an application for a permit needed to be applied for 10 or more people on a city property, not that it was a special event. Those are two different things.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, so I concur with the mayor and the questions that he's asking and the concerns that he has. I have the exact same concerns. I've been watching all these events for the last 2 years, and it's very difficult to understand what is what's a special event, what's not a special event, why some events take longer than others to get approved, what the even concern was, because quite frankly, I haven't seen any major issues with our events so far. They all seem to have gone off real well, and the people seem to be liking what we're doing. So I just think that we have to come up, as the mayor said, with some common sense rules and regulations so we can continue providing events and services to our community.
And Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
I will tell you, provided for in the presentation, the definition, when you see the definition for special events, it is right now almost virtually everything. So we're looking to truncate that definition. We are looking to expedite and differentiate rentals in the banquet hall versus going out and doing something on the beach, and smooth the process out. And so there's elements in here that we have seen as it relates to special events that we can make it a little bit more streamlined. But I will tell you, and in conversations that we've had with the special events manager, a lot of times we get applications that are not complete. And so when the special events manager, as managing different other activities, and sees some of those applications are, so there is some back and forth or insurance that's provided and those types of things. So one of the things we're going to do is, after we get clarity of direction from the board, we are going to have discussions with our event organizers. We're going to share with them what the new policy and process is, so everyone understands what the new cadence are to help make this a smoother process.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Veneer, and then, go ahead.
So what is,
Finish, Mayor?
no, just had a quick question for clarity. I know Attorney Rao said an event application is 10 people, is what was said. And a special event is triggered at how many people? Our director?
Our scale is 500 or less, or 500 or more. So it could be 10 as well. It's a broad range. It's very broad. It doesn't specify.
So a special event is unspecified. So Attorney Rouse, you said an event application is with 10 or more people. So any event, just submit an application for 10 people or more. So if we're having an event in the marina, I typically think we follow that process when it comes to the rental space or any event. It doesn't matter when we're hosting something, we have an application. But the trigger for a special event, and you said it's 500 or more, 500 or less. Can you explain that a little bit clearly?
The current policy, if I would love to get to my presentation. I think it'll
We'll get
address
there.
a lot of your concerns.
We're definitely going to get
Mayor.
there.
We need to.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Let me
Hold on a
just
second. Hold on one
share with
second.
you.
Hold on one second, sir. Mayor, did you get your question answered?
No. It said 500 or less, 500 or more. I didn't understand the difference between.
According to the current policy, the range is 500 or less, or 500 or more. That's the way that we range it in the current policy. So that's why we're here today, to try to bring that in.
So we're gonna hold questions.
So, but I mean,
Hold on one second, Mayor, one second.
mhm.
I think that a lot of the questions you may have may be in this presentation. So let us do this first,
Mhm.
and then we can get straight to you as soon as they're finished.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very good.
I just wanted to add one last thing. The reason for the application is because social media has created the unauthorized event. And if you look at A Tale of Two Cities, recently in Daytona, they had Daytona Black Beach Week. And it was an unauthorized event, but it was promoted on social media. Well, what gave the city the ability to send a cease and desist notice to the promoter was that there were 10 or more people going to be at this event. And when they arrived, of course, there were way more than 10 or more people. They could legally close the event down because the people weren't trespassing because they were on public property, they were on the beach. But it was an event where everyone had come for the same thing. And so requiring a permit provides you greater legal authorization to shut an event down and stop you from having a constitutional challenge to freedom of assembly. That's the reason for it.
Yes, thank you, Attorney Rouse. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone. Tonight, to follow up with Attorney Rouse and Assistant City Manager and the City Manager, I wanted to also address with the Mayor, Lawson, it's for the City of Riviera Beach, it's more of the activity than more of the number of people. So by the ordinance, when we say parade, that's what governs what really, as far as what we need as far as permitting. I'm sorry, thank you. This is what this is for. Thank you. So here are some of the discussion topics that we will discuss tonight. The current special events framework, the special events.
Ms. Francis, you don't have to speak right into this thing here.
Let me do it like this. I'm sorry,
And go
y'all.
back to that list that you had. Let me see what is on that list.
How do I go back? Okay.
You supposed
So
to
we're
dis-
gonna,
Wait, hold
yes.
on. We're gonna discuss all of this?
No, those are some of the
I'm
things.
just joking. I'm joking. Go
Y'all got
ahead.
me on it. No, we'll go very quickly. The main thing tonight is to get a consensus from the council and the mayor. The special events is currently governed by Chapter 10, Article 4 of the ordinance, which is 4161, the special events policy, and also in the procedures manual. The ordinance establishes permit requirements, insurance requirements, operational review for public safety, and authority to deny or revoke permits. As previously stated, the original policy was implemented around July of 2021. It is important to understand what a special event is as defined in Riviera Beach. A special event is any parade, fair, show, festival, carnival, party, motorcade, run, street, dance, bike, cathon, race, walk, athletic event, or other attended entertainment or celebration that is to be held in whole or part upon publicly owned property. Take a breath. And or public right or way, or any such entertainment or celebration, if held wholly upon private property, that will nevertheless affect or impact the quality of life, ordinary and normal use by the general public of public property or public right of way within the vicinity of the event. The term special event also means any activity to be held in whole or in part upon publicly owned or controlled property and or public rights of way where merchandise or services are offered for sale, whether by profit or nonprofit organizations. That is our current ordinance as special in regards to special events. So that is very general, guys. That's everything. Any special event that takes place in the city of Riviera Beach without a permit will be subject to penalties in accordance with City Ordinance 4161. Sorry.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
know, I definitely don't want us to just keep jumping in every time, but I did, regarding the definition of what is a special event.
Yes.
I know there was a meeting that I was having. So I think it was a little confused because it did ask for the special event pack application to be filled out for this interest meeting for youth council that I was trying to have. But it doesn't list meetings up there, but on the website, it did say it needed to be done. So we started going through all of those hoops, but it didn't really apply. So I guess as we're going through this, just keep that in mind that maybe there's somewhere in there that needs to be fixed because it doesn't match up with what the definition is of a special event, but it did say that I needed to do this.
Yes, if I'm correct, you completed the pre-application. And that's about 7 questions. And what that is a tool to assist to confirm if you need a special event application or permit, I mean.
What I was trying, and I don't want to make this about one
Yes.
thing, but it was basically what I was trying to do was get media. I
Yes.
needed communications,
Yes.
but in order to get communications, you had to go through X, Y, and Z. And that's when it triggered a whole number of things that I was just like, it's not that serious. I mean, what are we doing here? But just keep that in mind as we're
Yes.
going along here.
Well,
I don't know where it fits in, but maybe
yes.
somewhere it needs to be fixed so that doesn't happen, because I don't think it applied, but it had to be done.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Operational challenges identified. Increased volume of event requests, long processing timelines, rentals versus special events, policy non-compliance issues, inconsistent sponsorship expectations, and rising public safety costs. in the CRA versus the city, permitting and collaboration. Goals of the proposed policy: to update the policy to include best practices, improve clarity and consistency, streamline processing for city events, clearly classify event types, improve customer service timelines, strengthen fiscal accountability, and protect city resources. We are proposing the event classification as follows: municipally or city program events, which includes our city departments, elected official, and special events office. Number two are facility rentals that includes either in the parks or the Marina Event Center. And number three are exterior special events, which are private events. Currently, we have, our types are titled private, city-sponsored, or city-produced. Hello? Okay. Facility rentals versus special events. The classifying event types: facility rental, the interior space reservation, no special city services required, no permit required. Park and Marina Event Center event, organized activity inside the building, or minimal operational impact. Exterior special event is an outdoor activity and it requires city services. With the city program events, it is organized or facilitated by a city department or an elected official. Part of the official municipal programming or community outreach, and this proposed process is to be coordinated through the Special Events Office, streamlined administrative review with a minimum of 60-day notice. The district events by elected officials, district-specific events. The proposed framework is one event per quarter per official, minimum of 60 days notice, cannot conflict with a scheduled events, and it has to, with the master calendar, and not permitted on recognized holidays. The proposed process, again, is to be coordinated through the Special Events Office, complete application permitting process. And to know any associated costs will be paid from the elected officials' allocated funds.
Madam Chair, I have a quick question
Yes.
about the district. When you said paid through the district, the elected officials' office, is that including the resources of police, public works, and all these other city resources that may be brought to bear?
No, sir.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just a follow-up to that same question. If we could go back to that previous slide, please.
Sorry. Yes.
And this is the proposed framework. That's one per quarter. I think that currently on the CRA board, we have one event that's been outlined and then one on the city side. So are we changing that overall, or what is going to be the plan if that's proposed? Are we looking for just one per quarter for city CRA, or are we looking for one on the city, one on the CRA?
Manager Evans.
Yeah. Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
When we started getting into this presentation, we looked at the events and we said that we had 6 events per city council person. And then when we did the math, that's 36 events out of 52 weeks. Theoretically, if you extract the holidays, you can have an event every week. And so we said from an operational standpoint, how many events do we think are, from a resource perspective and value perspective, that we thought that the board would be amenable to? So we put in one per quarter, and those one per quarters include what is the broad gamut of event services. So police, fire, public safety, or what have you, as a larger scale event versus a situation where there are small events. Now, this is, again, to your point, councilperson, earlier, this is separate and apart from meetings. Meetings are different. This is an actual bona fide event. And then when we talked about the cash contribution, we would say that would be monies that would come out of the promotional items for city council. So this number is a number that we put out there from the staff's perspective. We can, obviously have conversations with the board, and it is with the pleasure of the board. But we thought from a event perspective, because what we didn't want to have is conflicting events with elected officials multiple events in the same day? And how can we plan it out and make sure that the event that you do plan is to scale and really reflects what your objectives are?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm not necessarily for tonight, but if you could get to us, like, how much does it cost? How much are you having put forth for police and all of these different people every time we have an event? That would be helpful too, for us to kind of know that, it may not cost us a lot of money, but it is costing us a lot of money.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
we have Major Privateer. He can give kind of a ballpark for cost for public safety, and then Assistant Chief Golden can share from a fire perspective as well what a cost for a regular event would be.
Good evening. Can you just repeat that? Because I only caught part of it and I need to get a
Just
better.
given like a ballpark amount of how much it costs, like when we have these events, like the elected officials, when we have, a Christmas event or given to whatever. I mean, just in ballpark. I mean, there's nothing specific because I can't give you an example.
Yeah, for one officer, and we'll just use this and you can kind of go exponentially for there. For one officer, if they are hired from the outside entity, Extra Duty Solutions, they're getting, with all the fees, $86 an hour. So for 4 hours, right, 80 times 4 is 320, about 300, $450, or I'm sorry, $350 or so. When it's city overtime, there are other fees associated with it, from my understanding, which is workers' compensation, pension, and things like that. So depending on who shows up, whether it's a sergeant or a senior officer, those numbers could be higher. From my understanding, there's usually only one or two, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, one or two officers that are needed for these events. So those fees are much, much lower. And sometimes at some of these events, we don't even use officers contracted out because we're already there and supporting the event. And that's one of, I'm sorry, and that's one of the things I try and speak to Miss Lady about, is ensuring that if it's possible, our CRA officers or the chief or whoever may be out there, it's not necessary because we're already part of it.
Okay. And
So
what
it's
about
the same for both?
fire?
Yeah, same for both fire and.
No, he's gonna
police?
say.
For
Oh, okay.
fires is a little bit more streamlined. We're about $100 an hour for our personnel, and we normally have 2 personnel out there. So, well, for the 2 personnel, it'll cost you $100
Okay.
Oh,
for the event. So ours is way more streamlined, but it can get expensive in something like the old school reunion or one of the bigger events.
okay.
I'm sure.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, so can you please explain, I'm kind of confused when you said that it had to come out of the council person's allocation, excluding city services. I mean, what if the council member, like I did with the polo event, for example, on the beach, where I co-sponsored it with people that were paying through advertising and everything else to pay for the event? So can you explain the difference or how that plays in?
Are you referring to the beach polo?
Right, the beach polo.
I think that actually did come from special events budget. That particular one, am I correct? Councilman Spiritus, in that situation, I understood it that the council approved for the sponsorship.
Right.
So the police and all of that came from the special events budget. It actually didn't come from the councilman budget. So that, because the council made a decision for it, because that was the vote. But my understanding, and Mr. Manager, if there will be funds budgeted for the different activities for every council person. So by you planning that event, it will be allocated and come from that line item.
Madam Chair, if I may. So the intent is you already have what are your promotional dollars that are in your budget. Our intent is to provide you monies for the purposes of sponsoring event. So if there's an event that, is an event that you want to sponsor, you have 2 options. One, you can provide for what is a monetary contribution or the venue. You can't have both, but you can get either or. And so that's what some of the things that we're looking to bring the policy forward, to give you a pot of monies that you can use for sponsorships for events, or you can provide for the venue as part of the sponsorship dollars. But that would be considered one of your events. And so If the board says, hey, instead of one per quarter, we'd like to see two per quarter, or whatever that may look like, that's up for discussion. But that's how we wanted to handle that particular situation.
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair, follow-up, please. Yeah, so follow-up, city manager, so that, I'm more confused now. So you're saying venue or funding from our account. Well, what if I want to use the beach for my event, but I also want to use money to subsidize the cost of the event?
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
That's a public policy discussion that you all collectively, when we did look at other entities, they had a situation where you couldn't get what is cash contributions and then an in-kind for facility spaces. So, but it is up to the board how you wish to do that. So that's something that's within the purview of the board.
Madam Chair.
Hold on,
Okay.
Mayor, then you.
Thank you. We spoke about the officers earlier, where we talked about it's paid through EPS and the cost for special events. When the board actually hosts, or a council member, and I'm assuming if we go back to the slide that we were on, talks about the actual hosting a special event, do they go through EPS when we actually do our special events, or is it just going to be on detail officers that come to the council members' events?
That is probably one of the things that I get confused with most, because I have to ask who's paying for it.
Right.
And once it's determined, it doesn't change my process. What it changes is how the officer's obviously going to get paid.
Correct.
And I need to make that clear to our contracted agency,
Correct.
so that they know they're just filling the spots, or they're going to have to collect the money from either the city or somebody else.
Because we're just talking about elected events, because we haven't even gotten to the special events for the city as well. For example, 4th of July, how were those officers paid? Was that through EPS?
That was a city-produced event, so that was from the individual department budgets.
Right.
That was.
So what was the cost for the officers, and what were they paid at what dollar amount? Because they're paid a premium when they go through EPS, because we have to pay administrative costs. Were they just showing up with their salary and they just were there on the clock? So these are the confusing pieces. And that's why, as you said, officer, it's confusing. Because now if we're just starting with the electeds, I'll stick to this until we get to that piece, which is going to be city sponsored, as Ms. Franks just said. But if the elected officials currently are looking to possibly do 1 or 2 per quarter, because of the number of events and activities, with also the minimum number of notice days that's being recommended or proposed, we want to make sure that the residents know exactly what that cost looks like. So making sure that the officers and the firefighters are properly noticed as to this is the cost. If it's going to be subsidized by the city, making sure that the city is going to cover that cost. It's not coming out of the elected officials' actual proposed promotional budget. And then I disagree with Mr. Evans when it comes to one or the other. I think as elected officials, we've always had the ability to produce an event where we've done 8 events and the cost has been covered by city-produced events, where we don't have to come out of additional costs for either venue or for cash contributions, Mr. Evans said. So if it's within our budget that's approved in October, then I think we should be able to use it for the number of events we're doing. So this proposed amendment, I would recommend that we stick to the 2 per quarter that we were doing. That would be my recommendation. We have 1 on the city and 1 on the CRA side. And since special events is just going to be overseeing special events, it would just be 2 for the department. And I think that we possibly should look at the minimum day notice, looking at a 30-day notice versus a 60-day. And then also making sure we define what triggers the special event for the elected officials, if they're doing a special event versus the city sponsored. Those would be my recommendations based upon the elected piece.
Madam Chair, if I may, and Ms. Lady, if you can please go back to the previous slide. Our recommendation would be to align, if it is 1 event per quarter or 2 events per quarter or 3 events, that is inclusive of the CRA, because one of the things we want to eliminate ambiguity. And the other side of it is, if with the events that are talked about here for the elected officials here, we would actually track that, and that will be provided for in the actual department budget, where you will see a line item specific for district events. So the departments would charge against that event. But the one thing I would ask for clarity on the board, I would recommend that the board consider putting what is a cap, because if you have 1 event per quarter and the city is going to incur all the costs associated with it, Who knows if it's $100,000 event or those types of things. So if your event per quarter, you can, I think there should be some parameters not to exceed the allotted or provided for budget, because maybe you wanted to do one big event and that's the only event you do per year, or you wanted to do, 8 events. That's within the purview. So some clarity from the board on that, because our intent is to make these changes to establish what is your legislative intent and to move forward with some of these steps implemented immediately, because we can modify the policy. The ordinance allows us for us to make modifications to the policy. We can do that immediately. If it's codified in the ordinance, then we have to come back and take the necessary steps. So we really need some clarity and some parameters on how the board wants to put this. So if the board wants to have, at the discretion of the city council, I want to give the venue and I want to give sponsorship. That's something that you can provide for.
But I'm confused.
that don't make sense.
Madam Chair, I have to get this out because I'm just confused until I get it figured out. You're saying the cash amount, and then you're saying the venue, but we're talking about for elected officials.
Yep.
So you're saying that we could, if we were having an event, we could only get the marina, for example, and then.
So I'm saying that, let's say it's not it's not your event. You want to support an event.
No, I'm only talking about events that I'm having,
Right.
not supporting
so
someone else.
What are we talking about right here?
Your event,
Which one are we talking about now, though?
Madam Chair, if I may, your events would fall under what are this, but it also associated with your event, we get a lot of, I'm going to sponsor this event, and then we can't differentiate it. Is it your sponsorship or is it your event? And so we need clarity from the board, because there's a lot of confusion where somebody wants to do an event and then we give them what is the cost for the event, and then they want sponsorship for the event.
So it needs to be two separate things then.
Yes.
probably. Yeah.
Events. Is it, if somebody wants to sponsor it, if we're partnering with it, if we're hosting something, like what does the policy currently say?
Madam Chair, if I may, if I'm not mistaken, Miss Eladia Edwards Franks. Franks Edwards. Sorry, Eladia, my apologies.
It's okay.
Right now, correct me if I'm wrong, the sponsorship requires legislative action. The policy requires it to come through the council.
Right.
And so what we've been doing is to help facilitate. In some cases, you do have events that are provided for. So we facilitate, but all and any concessions or bona fide sponsorship pursuant to the policy requires legislative action from you all.
So not that type of sponsorship, the one where an organization may want us to be able to get the venue for them. So we would say, we'll sponsor the Marina Event Center for you. That would count as one of our sponsored events or one of our events.
It's your sponsored events. Your
Okay.
sponsored events.
So then we would have to have two different categories.
Right.
Okay.
Madam Chair. No problem.
Well, go ahead. I default, because
Thank-
I do, just like you said, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's two different things, because it still sounded like a whole lot of events and sponsorships and a lot. So we definitely need to put a limit on some things, but I will say this as well. I don't know that I want to be, because I was told that I have 4 events. So I'm thinking that CRA City, that's what I've been told since I got here. I can do 4 events that I sponsor, period.
For total?
That you
Yes.
sponsor
No,
or
it
that
was-
you have.
It was always told 4 on both sides, 4 in the city, 4 in the CRA.
I'm telling you what, I know you have 8 and 28, but I'm saying what I was told for me.
I do other ones and I stay in my budget and I
And
do
that's
what's
fine, and I
necessary.
have no problem with that.
So-
But I'm saying, but don't answer, I'm speaking for me, Mr. Mayor Lawson.
And I'm speaking
I've
in the
been
workshop.
told,
I
but
understand what
I'm-
you've been
hold on a
told, but
second,
I'm telling you,
hold
staff was told, staff has
Mayor,
told us
Mayor,
differently.
Mayor,
But
hold on
this
a
is
second,
my
Mayor.
time, though.
Hold on.
And
let
like
her
I
speak.
said, I was told 4 events. Okay, and so if that is not the case, I definitely, like I said, need clarity on the 2. And if it is the case, I don't necessarily want to be told that it's quarterly, because I may want to have 2 events during the summer. So that's why I'm saying I need to know the separation between what's the city versus the CRA event and so on.
Madam Chair?
bring out of your office so that would be what? Is this something that we would ratify on the CRA side because I know that when we do the budget, we do that as a part of our budget for the CRA. And then we also do the same thing for the city. So my assumption is that they're two separate entities anyway for special events. That is my understanding. Now, she said that she did not know that, but now we need to have some clarity moving forward because we're not going to be here forever. So the next people who come in here will know that this is how this works. Go ahead, Mr. Evans, then you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, and hence why we thought that it's appropriate to have a workshop discussion because there are moving parts associated with this. And I will tell you that I believe, and special events can attest to this, whenever there's a council person that asks for a help or assistance on an event, we facilitate it. We don't count events. We just facilitate it because we want to help the respective council person accommodate that. But I will tell you, it has gotten to the point where it is a lot of work from the staff standpoint and resources to where departments are concerned with regards to overtime expenditures and the like. And so that's why we're trying to mirror them up as best as we possibly can, because in the ordinance, it does say that the CRA can accept this policy part and parcel and different elements. So in the actual ordinance, the CRA can do something different. And so what we want to do is to make sure that in the policy, we clean that up and then we clean up the ordinance to make sure that if there's X amount of events or there's, a sponsorship versus, those types of cash contribution or utilizing of a venue, we actually provide for those in the policy because there is a lot of moving parts associated with this. In a lot of cases, we do have persons that would submit an application, go through the process, meet with staff, find out what the cost is, and then we find out that they're seeking sponsorship 2 weeks or 3 weeks out from the event. So in order for a lady and team to get together, it's trying to get 25 people in meetings over a 2-week period to process the application. So that's why we're trying to clear up and clean up some of these things so we can move a little bit more nimble moving forward.
And I think too that when we talk about constituting a special event, we're looking at two things: council person event that they, like my annual Kwanzaa event, or if I sponsor the breast awareness, but I just sponsor the room for them. There needs to be those two distinctions, and there needs to be a cap on what, because we can spend money out of our budget, but then we're not spending money out of our budget for police. That's something that the city or the police department is doing. So there needs to be a cap on the entire thing, which means that if I'm sponsoring something and I'm putting most of it out of my budget, but also too, this venue costs money, the police costs money, the firefighter costs money. So we need to be able to know what that is and then set a cap for that on both. Because now if you're sponsoring someone, I've had this happen. We sponsor someone and then they say they asked me to pay for the police. So what does that look like? Do we pay for the police out of my budget? Do we tell the sponsee that you need to pay for it? It needs to, and I think that's a call that the council person makes, but still we need to know what that looks like and what that costs. And there should be a cap on that as well.
And Madam Chair, also you would have situations where they would seek sponsorships from each council person as well. So those are some of the things that we see.
I see. I've never seen that, but you say so.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I have an unusual question because I've only had one event in a year. But what if, like me, I don't sponsor a lot of events. I don't give a lot of events. I do meet with a lot of people though about different things. Could, let's say I have an event each, I'm allocated one a quarter. I don't use them. Can I let one of my other council people, colleagues, use what I'm not using?
Madam Chair? That's a policy decision that you all as the board can give us direction on how you want to do that.
Long as we don't exceed the allocated number, the total number that we've been allocated,
And I think that too, a lot of this goes down to who are you going to pull this money from? That's where it's gonna get down to it. Because if we pull money out of our budget and then we're looking at the police for money out of their budget, then we're looking at fire for money out of their budget, who actually covers that? The city, us? You exceeded your budget, you can't do anything more? That needs to be clear so that we understand that if we've had 2 events and I've been spending all my money, that is it for me for the year. I can't go any further with that. But his question is, if I'm done with mine, can I, the next person hasn't done anything with theirs for the year, can I give them that option? I don't know.
And Madam Chair, I would say that you can probably, if it's the pleasure of the board, you can transfer the event, but they have to have the remaining monies to facilitate the event. So if it is, Councilperson Guyton transfers the event to the mayor per se, and let's say the mayor has $1,500 remaining in his budget for, I wanted to provide a cash contribution for this particular event, then you may have the allotment. Or it's a situation where is it one of his events that he gets per quarter and gets the whole full gamut of city services. That's some of the clarity that.
Transfer his money. Yeah, to that.
What?
Don't touch my money.
Don't go off on me.
So, so yeah, we need to get all of your money, Commissioner Guyton. Go ahead.
Testing, okay. I wasn't talking about transferring my money.
Were you not?
I was talking about transferring the city resources that I may have been allocated for an event that I would choose to have. That's totally different. Money, allocated city resources.
And that,
Yeah, and it's still money,
yeah.
but I'm just saying.
No, and that means that, just like I said before, the point is that you got to have a cap, which means that.
And I agree with the cap.
So the cap is that if you haven't spent your money and you got a cap, you haven't spent anything, because now you haven't spent anything out of your money, period.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about spending money. I'm talking about using city resources for an event. If I haven't used the city resources for once a quarter events,
right,
and someone else has an event who wants to use city resources because they have exceeded their quarterly allocation.
I don't think they're apples to apples.
Yeah.
What? No,
Well, this is why. You may have an event, say your event is only 1 hour, right?
Mhm.
And you only need 2 police or whatever. Ms. Wynn may be the other person to transfer it to. She may have an event that's 4 hours and it requires, oh, I'm sorry, look at I'm just all comfortable here, real comfortable. She may need 10 police. So it wouldn't.
No, well, whatever our limit is for city resources, it is.
Okay, so we have to
If our
define
limit
that. That's, we haven't defined that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Okay, as long as
That's
we
it.
put a cap on everything, then.
Yeah, because we have to get down to the item, what it is, how much it costs, what it is, how much it costs. And then 2, there are hidden costs that we have to know what that is.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
The way I envision us building it out is the assumption that it's an event that requires 2 police officers, 2 firefighters, a 4-hour event. That's going to be what is the baseline. So
Right.
that's what we're going to build out for what your events look like when we come back and share with you,
That's reasonable.
the event. So that's kind of what we'll use that as kind of our rule of thumb and build out and be able to tell you the cost is $4,000 per event, times how many events you all choose to have per quarter.
Got it.
Madam Chair,
That's reasonable. Yes, go ahead, Mayor.
how many officers are required for a specific event? Because I know that we don't have a clear understanding or a consistency when it comes to the number of officers. We've had events where they define the number of officers. So as I said, there's a lot of ambiguity in this policy because Mr. Evans just said he'll define or establish a budget to 2 officers, but Ms. Miller Anderson clearly articulated that a Councilman Guyton wants to do an event with just 1 hour, 10 people, a beachfront jazz on the beach event or a monthly event, it's going to be different than Attorney Nguyen doing a actual beach Greek picnic that we're trying to host in June with
Slip that right over in there. okay?
15 officers. Hey guys, 15 officers and 3 fire trucks, and then the venue as well. So as Ms. Miller Anderson said, there's a clear difference because even with our officers, it's based upon the type of event, how many number of officers we're going to define or assign to that, and then that cost also, does it go through EPS or does it go through just regular staff or city resources? So if the council and I want to partner with Old School Reunion, is that one of my 4 events? And I say I want to do that as my event. Can we do that? If I want to partner with the Greek picnic that's hopefully coming in June, can I do that? And is that going to be one of my 4 events? And then will my resources go to that event? Because the policy is not currently clear, or has it ever been clear? So if we have officers and we're going to give a estimate of 2 officers, 2 firemen, and the venue, that cost is going to be different depending on the type of event that we host. So we want to give staff clear direction, because since 2021, when Ms. Frank said we adopted it, I think there's just been some confusion, and I don't want that confusion anymore going forward.
And Madam Chair,
Yes,
and the officers, that's provided for law enforcement, but they basically do a risk assessment. If there's alcohol, regardless if there's 200, the number for 200 people with alcohol and with alcohol, with or without, changes because there's risk. So there is certain factors that elevate the number of emergency personnel that you're going to have there. And so when I did say we would build out that baseline, it would be predicated on, not an alcohol event. There's no, those type. And so if we build that and we say, hey, the cost for that is each council person gets $15,000, and one council person wants to say, associated with my $15,000, I want to partner with X. That's something that we need policy direction from you all. Okay, councilperson X, you can have that partnership, but that's your events budget for the entire year. So those are some things that, we need direction and clarity for is how the board wants to proceed.
So follow up to that statement, building it out for a baseline, there's no 2 like events. So if Mr. Evans is going to build it out for 50 people, no alcohol at the event center, it's different than the marina events with my back to school event. So being that I've done the most events on this board, I need to make sure that we're clear and it's consistent with every board member. The budget is accurate and it's also properly defined, and that we're all on the same page with what are the steps in the process and how much is going to go into it. Because Mr. Evans can't just give us a clear direction as to what's a standard event. We can just cap the total amount that we want to be able to have for our budget, but staff is going to be different as well, because I don't think staff really even has the clear role as to, when I'm talking about staff, I'm talking about like our officers. How many officers are required per person? That's been relative, because I've had different calls from different promoters and events that said they've been assigned, 15 officers, 60 officers, 30 officers. They assess the risk and they determine how many officers are assigned to that event. So until we actually establish our event, then we won't know what is going to be the number or the risk allocated to it. But if we just set a clear budget, as Mr. Evans said, we just need to make sure that we do not exceed that budget or cost for the events. So
Madam
when we
Chair.
get to we're going to need the numbers. So we're going to need, what is the cost per officer? I think you said it was $86 per officer through EPS. Do we have to go through EPS if it's a city event? If we're doing and then we have to also talk about, we'll get to city sponsored versus an elected official event, so we can make sure that's also properly defined as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair?
hold on a second, I'm curious. You good? Okay, go ahead, sir.
I just think that there should be no difference between whether we co-sponsor an event or whether we have our own event. They're one and the same. We have to limit the amount of events that we have. I just think that they should be considered one and the same, and they should be tied into the same number of events that we're allowed to have per quarter. I do understand Councilwoman Davis Purnier's concern where it shouldn't be a quarter, it should be maybe a year. You can have it any quarter you want. You can have all of them in one quarter if you want. That should be up to the council person. So I don't think it should be limited to a quarter. Uh, I just think that we should limit the number of events by not saying one's different than the other. If we co-sponsor it or we sponsor it, it's one and the same.
The burden on staff is difficult when you don't limit it for a time frame, because if you do all your events in a 3-month period, you can have one elected, everybody doing them around Christmas. Because now the strain on staff when it comes to police, fire, and special events, if we don't actually separate them. We've had this discussion back in 2021 when we actually assigned one event per quarter to give them enough time to work with them versus the elected official. All electeds wanted to do something around Thanksgiving and Christmas, and having 4 events around that time frame would be an additional burden on them. So that's why it was separated quarterly versus just doing, any time of the year.
Madam Chair, does the city usually hold events during those major holidays, like as a whole? Usually, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm just asking.
With the 4th of July,
About
MLK
Christmas?
parade, yes. Some holidays, but not all of them.
Not all
Yes.
holidays.
Mhm.
Okay.
And remember, those are premium rates during holidays as well for the safety, security services.
Madam Chair, follow up.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
would it be possible to submit a request? And if there is a conflict, then,
And part of this presentation, Madam Chair, may I? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Part of this presentation will illustrate how other cities and what the best practices are. A lot of them are capping. A lot of them have a master calendar, which everyone will be able to review. And that way you'll be able, and if it's blocked off, you'll know. So it's about having the software and having those type of systems in place. So, yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm getting at. I mean, every council member, even if we have 2 per quarter, we could all pick the exact same day during that quarter. So you end up with the same situation with the staff all tied up. So I just think that we have to somehow work together to make sure that we don't have the conflicts and we don't overburden the staff. But I don't think that making a difference what quarter it is really going to make a difference, because we could all say we're all having a Christmas party, on the 23rd, and how would you stop us unless the policy said that we had to somehow coordinate, or there was some sort of order or time period that you had to give notice.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So so we've talked internally, having a timeline as to when to ask the council, okay, theoretically, when do you, or what type of events you want to have a year? Because if 3 of you want to do a book bag drive, then the city should just do a book bag drive and it'll be our event and we'll do it and we'll invite all the council members to it. So we've talked about a situation, let's just say for conversation's sake, April 1st, all the council members give us tentatively what your events are. We can plug it in and then say, okay, everybody wants to do a book bag drive, they want to do a Christmas tree lighting, they want to do okay, special events, these are now bona fide city events, we see that. Then we can say, okay, these are city events. Now, since we've given you back those events, do you want to redistribute those in the calendar? And then we can plan out making sure that it doesn't hit the holiday block or spring break and the like. And so we've internally had that conversation to say, can we give the board a date to say, hey, give us tentatively all that, and then we can work out that, because some of the events that you all are talking about are probably large scale or some events that we as the city should be doing, right? And so getting that feedback from you to that scale would allow for us to plan for what is the event calendar. And in essence, it may be a situation where you don't do as many events because we have a broad gamut of events citywide. And so, that's something that we talked about at the internal staff level, and we can certainly do that.
Madam Chair, and I think Royal Palm does it like that. They have a calendar early, and they set their events like a year in advance. And I mean, I know some things come up, but they pretty much have a structured calendar.
Okay. Listen, letting the board know that we have a 9 o'clock cutoff, so we want you to go ahead and finish this, and we can go to our next item. What is it that we have else, Ms. Franks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Here is our current policy timeline, where events 499 people or less must have adhere to the 60-day guideline, which the application must be submitted. If it's over 500, it's 180 days. So that is our current timeline. It breaks it down as far as what is due, what's submitted, when the permit will be issued, and the post-event meeting. So this is just to give you guys an overview of the current policy in place. Again, some of the difficulties is enforcement and making sure that when the applicant submits it, it's in a timely fashion and all the documents are submitted.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
if we can go back to that timeline,
Yes.
500 people or more, the timeline is 180 days. It says permit issued 75 days prior.
That's for the 108 days, yes.
Okay. I want to understand that a little bit better. How do we issue the permit? Because a lot of events that I know have come down to the wire where you've issued them the day before. Is this staff's requirement that you're supposed to issue it 75 days prior?
Yes.
What flexibility? Oh, I'm sorry,
yes.
go ahead.
If I may, Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
The the reason why we're here today is because the reason of enforcement. We have a lot of internal staff or issues where we're trying to make sure that the documents are submitted, the risk insurances. So the issue is to make sure, like right now, we have an issue with some of the event organizers waiting to see if how the sponsorship format or if their sponsorship is going to be approved. So a lot of them are on hold. So with that, with the 180 days, what we've noticed is that there has been delay with paperwork, so that the staff tries to work with the applicant to issue the permit. So that's
So-
been an issue.
Thank you. So follow up with that.
Mhm.
60 days. So if it's 499 people or less, the permit is supposed to be issued 15 days prior to, for 500 people or less.
Yes,
500 people or more, 75 days.
yes.
How can that be possible if we don't get a police detail or assigned until probably the week before? Because I know I've had conversations with special events that say we don't know if the event's going on. We don't know how many people. We can't assign officers. We don't know how many officers are going to be there. How can we set these timelines permit-wise based upon that current policy? And have we been following that 75 days prior? Because I know, and what happens if we don't? Because I know permits, we'll get them the day of or the day before.
I think what the impact that working with the customer event organizer, sometimes the staff and the committee is wanting to make sure that this timeline or whatever timeline we put into place is strictly enforced.
Yeah.
And this is why we're here today, to make sure that whatever the timeline is, if it's a certificate of insurance missing, it will not be processed. What we're getting is people becoming lackadaisical. They're not submitting their paperwork, they're not paying their fees. And again, we're customer service oriented. We want to work with the customer, but it is becoming a pattern.
So do we have flexibility in this policy currently? Because what we've done is we haven't followed the policy. We've just kind of, we've done it just to kind of make sure we work with the department. But I want to make sure that there's certain organizations that may come about and say, we want to bring an event to the city. And it may be a shorter or different time frame. So what flexibility do we have in, well, not this policy, but the one that you're looking for direction? I want to make sure, Mr. Evans, we have that flexibility in the policy if something comes to us that may be not in the timeline that we set tonight. So how do we create that as well? Because I know that the permits, we haven't followed any of that when it comes to issuing the permits, because we're trying to work with the organizations. But if we're going to have a clear status moving forward, we have to have some flexibility in the policy as well.
So,
Or continue to. I'm assuming that's what we have now,
yeah.
right? Because that's
So
what you've been
we-
doing.
Yeah, so theoretically, we have, and I think it's, I don't know, Aledia, how many events we've rejected. I think we've tried to make them work as much as possible, because
yes.
we understand it's a value
Mhm.
to the community. So we try to, the rules are in place, obviously, for the purposes of creating that structure, but we've gotten down to the wire just to facilitate some of the events, because there's some value into that. There is flexibility in the policy that, let's say Oprah Winfrey wants to do a show on the beach, and if she's listening, we'll take it, right? But we do have the flexibility to have those event, if it's a great event and it's going to be great for the community, no different than the Suncoast Chargers winning the state championship. We have the flexibility to move in those types of things, but we don't want that to become the norm.
Right.
And so that's some things that we want to be able to address. But a lady does have in the slide, she does have some things where if we reject an event or say that the information is complete, you will know a lot quicker than what the process calls for. So this is what the modified schedule is as to if you do provide a response, if you do put an application, you will have a notification from us and a checklist. These are the things that need to happen, and you will know very quickly if your application is incomplete from special events. And so we are going to make sure people hear back in time so they can make okay, I'm missing insurance. I didn't pay the extra duty solutions. Let me go ahead and cure these issues and resolve these issues for the purposes of my event. And so,
Madam Chair, who will determine which events get the flexibility? Like who makes that determination? Like where flexibility comes in? Because yes, Suncoast Parade, awesome, definitely. But then,
The ordinance actually references, the city manager does. So it's in the ordinance. I think page 16.
okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Jacobs, could you use a microphone, please? That's what those are for. Thank you.
Seriously. Thank you. Ms. Pierre, we try to work with everyone. We put on events 24 hours in advance if the applicants don't have what they need. So it's like an open-ended situation.
Is it frustrating for you?
It very much, it is, yeah. Where you have to spend all day on a Saturday trying to figure out how you're gonna accommodate an event that's gonna take place on Sunday. So the flexibility, it exists. But when it comes to like EDS services, we were talking about that. Even if you apply on time, if you don't pay your fees, how can we help you? If you don't pay your fees until the night before, we still try to work hard to accommodate, but
That shouldn't be regular practice.
yes,
Right?
yes, like, it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Got it. Okay, excellent. So
Wait, okay. The proposed processing timeline, when an applicant or a customer submits an application, they will receipt of an application and will receive a response within 5 days, 5 days or less. Preliminary review of the request for additional information. So once the committee reviews the application, if there's additional information or we have further questions, we will notify them within 5 days. Incomplete applications will no longer, we will just return it and deny it. A majority of the applications are being submitted incomplete. It's important to know what other cities are doing. And I know that council asked this last time. So we had an opportunity to survey some of the other cities, Delray, Miami Beach, Orlando, West Palm, in regards to the sponsorship structure. So a lot of them has a cap or dollar for dollar, or they maybe have a grant process. Riviera Beach has like a case by case, and it's so general where everyone else has more of a structure, sponsorship structure.
can you go back, please?
Okay,
Before I forget, Ms. Franks, could you make sure you email it to us?
yes.
Thank you. Go
You
ahead.
okay? You want me to go?
Yes, go ahead.
The sponsorship structure. So basically, the city will only sponsor those types of events.
No, this is what other cities are doing.
I know, that's what I'm
Yes.
saying.
Mhm.
Those cities, those are the only types of organizations that they will sponsor. Is that what that second column is saying? So like Delray Beach, they'll only sponsor someone if it's a public benefit sponsorship or the
Yes.
cultural funding.
They're very specific. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
I see.
Very specific.
So West Palm Beach only does it if it's revenue sharing, if they get some money.
Yes.
I like that.
Oh.
Mhm. Yeah.
I like that.
Oh,
Yes, go
I
ahead,
got
sir.
9 o'clock, y'all. Huh?
Yes, go ahead.
You ready, Mayor?
Mine wasn't working.
They go back to West Palm Beach. I think you just stated that they only do it if it's revenue sharing. That's not accurate. I've hosted an event in West Palm Beach, and they actually gave a $30,000 sponsorship for Dinner on Blanc in West Palm, and they were the partner. So they were the title sponsor, and this was last year. I did it on the amphitheater. They gave us $30,000 sponsorship. They gave us a venue for free, and we had Dinner on Blanc in partnership with the organizer. So
You
that's,
are the mayor of Riviera Beach. Of
I mean,
course
they were
gonna
doing
do-
it for the last 5 years. I just partnered with them to do it. So I'm not sure. It's not no. You just made a comment that it's only revenue sharing. It's not only revenue sharing. That's an example of a structure that they have incorporated for sponsorships, but they have other sponsorship options, and they leave flexibility for that. The large scale things like Sunfest, they do revenue sharing. Miami Gardens, they do revenue sharing. The Miami Gardens receives up to $7 million annually with revenue sharing. And we actually lost that here in this community because of ambiguity and because of a lot of issues we'll talk about another time. But we want to create that clear direction because I love the revenue sharing option, but that's for large scale events.
I like that.
For small scale events, you're not dipping in people's pockets like
No,
that.
you can't do anything with
Thank you,
10K with 50 people. You can't get anything back with that. But certainly, for 1,000 people, we should be able to have some type of revenue sharing as a part of the partnership. Go ahead, Ms.
Madam Chair. Delray, the city of Delray offers a variety of sponsorship packages that provide benefits such as marketing exposure, opportunities for distribution of promotional materials, and community engagement opportunities for sponsoring partners. City of Miami Beach reviews sponsorship requests for events that attract a significant number of participants from outside the city. In many cases, the city requires a dollar-for-dollar match from the requesting organization. Orlando, the city of Orlando provides financial assistance opportunities for nonprofit organizations hosting events within the city, and the program often prioritizes events that promote cultural diversity, community engagement, and economic activity. The city of West Palm manages sponsorships and partnerships for special events through various administrative channels, allowing organizations to collaborate with the city to support community programming and events. In the city of Riviera Beach, currently, the city council must approve all sponsorship requests during a city council meeting, and the city manager or designee will review each request and determine whether it will be placed on the city council agenda, which meets bi-weekly. The city council will consider it for approval. Applicants who request are scheduled for consideration are responsible for attending the designated city council meeting to present their request. So just to give you an overview of how the different cities do it. Out of the four, City of Orlando profile and their approach was very similar to some of the things that we will be looking for as far as capping. So what does the City of Orlando? And keep in mind, City of Orlando has done this for 46 years, and they are one of the top as far as best practices. So this was a good model. What is a special event in Orlando? A special event is an organized activity that draws people together. So these are just some of the examples. Festivals, concerts, parades, runs, races, walks, street fairs, community, cultural celebrations outdoors, similar to what we do here in Riviera Beach. A special event permit is required in Orlando under the following circumstances. And I know the mayor had a question. 100 or more attendees triggers a permit requirement. So that's the total. Events with fewer than 100 may still require a permit if it involves food or merchandise, vending, alcohol sales, temporary structures, stages or tents, or street closures.
Quick clarity on
Yes.
that. Is there a difference between a permit and a special event permit? Because I think Attorney Rouse mentioned earlier that there was a difference between the two. Application permit for 100 or more for Orlando. If you could go back, Miss Franks Edwards.
Right here.
It says 100 or more attendees triggers a permit. So that's a special events permit with 100 or more.
Yes, sir.
And if it's less, they may require if they have specific, and it says may, not shall. So that's determined by the special event. Who makes that decision? If it's
The special events committee as well.
The
They
committee?
review it. They have actually
Yes, ma'am.
an office.
So
And
if
yes.
it's at less than 100, they may still require it if they involve some of those things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
if this is a checklist in regards to if you answer yes, I wanted just to give you an overview like Orlando, over 100 people or a city of property or impacting traffic, yes, special event. Location, public property, city roadways or private property that displaces parking traffic, yes. Impede city roads, sidewalks, or standard traffic flow, yes. Require specific permits for loudspeakers or fireworks. They even have a $20 fee for a loudspeaker. Yes, and it's a permit through the special events permitting department. They're making money. Vending or goods or services on public property, that's commercial use. Infrastructure, use of temporary structures, even if you want to put up a stage, yes, there is a fee. Stages, tents, fences, that also goes to the special events department. Alcohol sales or catering requires additional letters or maybe permits. So that's the city of Orlando. So everything, they have a lot of permitting levels. So I just wanted to compare Riviera Beach to Orlando and how they have the different levels of permits, but that still goes to the permitting department. I don't know if you want to go there, but that'll give you an idea. City of Orlando, these are the type of events, the large outdoor events. If your event is on city property, streets, sidewalks, or affects a city right of way and has over 100 or more attendees, it requests a large outdoor event permit. Alcohol sales, selling alcohol on private property during an event requires a letter of determination from the city. This requires the event meets city safety rules for guests and neighbors. Food and merchandise. Selling food or merchandise on city streets or sidewalks is prohibited under city ordinance. They have an ordinance, special events, but a special events must be permitted. Exceptions include food trucks, vendor tents, and events that comply with city permitting and health issues. City of Orlando, as far as their different types, they have different levels. They have the small, low impact, where a permit may not be required. This is not always. Medium, standard, yes. Those are considered like the 5K runs, the local fairs. The large, high impact, they will require a permit. Those are like the downtown parades and concerts. Signature city events, that also requires a permit. And that's like city branded celebrations. The CRA supported events, they also require permitting because they're using city resources. CRA events are usually medium to high impact and require permits just like city events. They're still governed under our ordinance. So who are the actors? The applicant, the customer, the person or the group wanting to throw the event. And who's the special events manager? That's the designee and final signer, manages the intake and the calendar and issues the special events permit. The special events committee is the safety experts, the police, the fire, parks, and public works, and they decide the staffing levels for safety and cleaning. Then we have our city manager, who's chief of operations, and we have our CRA director, chief of the CRA. That's the neighborhood investor. Those are our actors. The City of Orlando permitting process. They have a 9 to 12-step process. So the pre-planning, define event goals, size, and location. Then by that, you can check the master calendar to see if the date's available, and that's accessible to everyone. Funding and budget planning. They either have the city grants, the CRA, pre-approved funds, or sponsorship or private funding. Step 3, the application submittal, where you'll submit your application online within 60 days as well. It's similar to Riviera Beach. Include site plans, safety plans, vendors, and budget with funding source. Step 4 would be the city review. Departmentals, that's Special Events Committee, police and safety, they will review the application. Coordination of funding authorization, that's when the staff will confirm the funding availability through either a grant, a CRA, or pre-approved budget. Step 6, the master calendar placement. It'll then be placed on the master calendar, and then the final approval will be either if it has to go before council or the permit will be issued. City of Orlando versus the city. This is the funding caps. Annual budget. The city and the CRA sets a fixed yearly budget for events and grants. Once the money is spent, there's no more until next year. The funding caps. Each program has a max per year. For neighborhoods, for $1,200 cultural events from $5,000 to $20,000, the CRA up to $5,000, an extra requires city council approval. The first come, first served. Funding is limited and allocated in order of application. Late requests may be denied. Reimbursement, many programs are pay first, submit receipts, and get reimbursed. Only approved expenses within the cap qualify. So if they receive the funding, they have to have a receipt to justify the spending. The CRA support. The CRA events follow the same rules. Cap funding, permits, safety, vending, alcohol compliance, covers community engagement, marketing, and cultural events. Fee waivers, possible for nonprofits and educational community benefit events, such as street closures, park rentals, and permitting. Permits still are required. In summary, funding is capped, reimbursed, and first come, first served. The CRA events follow the same rules and apply early and plan within your limits. And this is all for the city of Orlando. These are some links that I have provided, and I'll make sure that I provide this so you guys can take a look.
Madam
And they
Chair?
do about 1,200 events. I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, go ahead, finish that, finish your,
Yeah, they do about 1,200 events. So they're on a different scale, but they have a great infrastructure that we could take some good things from. Go ahead, Mayor.
that was actually in line with what I was going to ask, because I think the city of Orlando has 350,000 residents.
Yes.
Versus our 38,000. And I love the infrastructure behind it, but it's just creating a structure, like with certain caps and this is all for special events. This is not per se for the electeds or the events they want to host. This is just the special events department. And the special events department does 1,200 events per year, 12,000. 1,200 events per year?
1,200, yes.
1,200 events. So the department's doing 1,200. I know our department, we're probably doing like big events, 4 or 5, plus some of the smaller events. So it's a good scale, and I think that thank you for giving just a structure. But that's exactly what we just need to create with clear direction, is just the structure behind some of those requirements and those caps that are put in place, so that we can have the exact similar policy, but relative to our municipality. I mean, 38,000 residents. What made you choose Orlando? Because of just the structure that they have?
Structure, Miami would have been second, but
Yeah.
they have the best practices. Like
Got it.
everywhere with my research, the city of Orlando has
Orlando.
that infrastructure.
Yeah,
Yes.
Miami Gardens is good. And then also comparing it to some other local municipalities on a smaller scale as well. Lake Park, Delray, West, like some of those other ones that see their policies, Royal Palm, they have an excellent policy as well. But
the
the
only
structure
thing-
behind, yes, go ahead.
The only thing I found, Mayor, they didn't have as much detail.
Yeah.
You know, I
Good.
have a family member that's the director of special events for Lake Park. Theirs is not as detailed. So I wanted to make sure that I kind of painted a picture for you
Yeah.
guys.
And what I did notice about the policy, which I was very appreciative of, is a lot of mays in there and a lot of discretion of the board and a lot of approval by the council if it doesn't meet certain standards. So I want to keep flexibility and leverage so that it can be approved by the special events department or the city manager, or if it exceeds certain budgets, it can go to the actual council for additional funding. Because there wasn't shall in there, it was may. May gives flexibility for a lot of the policy so that we're not strong-armed by a policy when we want to do additional events that could possibly pushed or supported and encouraged by the board.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, very good.
Okay, almost done.
How many slides you got left?
With the almost done. CRA operations in Florida law. Wanted to make sure that I shared with the CRA. CRAs are authorized under the Florida Statute 163, Part 3, Community Development. The redevelopment allows cities to create CRAs to eliminate blighted areas. The CRAs can fund redevelopment initiatives, including events that support local businesses, tourism, and district activation. Under that statute, it does not grant CRAs the power to bypass city event permits. So we still, because we're using city resources, either it's a police officer, or if you're having alcohol, you're having a fire inspection, that's why the special events permit is required. The CRAs can fund, plan, and support special events as part of the redevelopment activities, but must do within the framework of local event permitting and city coordination. So it's important for the city and the CRA to still coordinate to make sure that we are in compliance with our own city ordinance, 4161. Sponsorship framework. Now we're going to go back to some of the things that some of the in-house conversations that we've had. Proposed sponsorship policy, primarily in-kind support, direct funding requires city approval. That's the city manager referred to the monetary. The formal sponsorship agreement required will be either use of the venue, the stage, or the fencing. There will be an agreement, either financial disclosure, event budget transparency, post-event reporting, and city recognition as presenting sponsor. These are best practices. Other cities require, again, a reimbursement through receipts. They don't just give the money, they make you bring the receipts, y'all. Okay. Sponsorship
Madam
application.
Chair, wait, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
So on the sponsorships, when you said reimbursement, I know that some come to the city because they don't have the funds, but they have a good product that they're sharing and helping others. What about those who may not have the funds to put up front, but it's something that's going to benefit the community? How do we navigate that challenge?
Well, currently, Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Currently, they will submit a special events application along with a sponsorship form. And with that sponsorship form, it asks certain questions, what is the community benefit? So we want to make sure that whatever it is, it's something that this community will benefit from.
So if it's Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
So if it's a community benefit, would the reimbursement portion be waived if they don't have the funds up front? I mean, when I say funds, they still have to pay the fees.
Yes.
But if they're asking us to help sponsor whatever the event is, they may not have it to pay it up front, and we reimburse them. That's what I mean.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
That last statement, Councilman, is based on other cities. They have where they are reimbursed or either through a receipting process. So if they submit their receipts, then they'll get the funding. So this is based on other cities. We don't do it like this currently. No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Sponsorship application cycle. It is proposed that we implement at least 2 application cycles, application review by the Special Events Committee and recommendations for administrative or council review. So if there's funding that is approved, we will put in place a cycle where there will be a submittal of an application similar to how we do our scholarship program. We will review it, the Special Events Committee. We'll approve it. Once we've used all the money, then the next cycle, they can apply again. That will cap it and that will put controls and make us more fiscally responsible with taxpayers' dollars. Public safety costs. Public safety services include, and just to reiterate, because they're so important to everything with the fire and police rescue, emergency support services. Currently, the proposed, we do not have any fee waivers as far as that. If the applicant submits, they are required to pay for public safety costs, unless, of course, they have a sponsorship agreement and they go through the process and it's approved. Fiscal responsibility. This is a very important word to me. Protecting city resources. Departments fund their own events, so of course they have the funding and it's through the Department of Budget. The elected officials are funded from allocated resources, and the sponsorship agreements protect the city investment, and public safety costs are also accounted for.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
Go back to the next one, please, Madam Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Elected officials have been funded from allocated resources. Who's allocating it and where are these resources?
During the budget cycle, of course, everybody's, so that's what that is. Policy direction requested. Staff requests council and directive, and this is very broad, but of course, distinguishing the program events from external events, codifying the concept in the ordinance or policy manual. By tonight, by getting some of your feedback, that will help us also update and revise the ordinance. Streamline the process for city events, district event framework for elected official, event classification system, processing timelines, the sponsorship policies, and public safety cost policy. So those are things that we're looking for direction on. This special events manager, as the special events manager, my responsibility is to make sure that I push the process and make sure that the permitting process goes smoothly. And make sure that I am in compliance with our city ordinance. And so it's a very important job Opportunities for improvement, these are just some of the things, but the main thing I've spoken on with city management is software, getting software systems automated to make the experience more comfortable and customer friendly for the applicant.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Franks Edwards, could you go back 2 slides, please?
Yes, sir.
It was for the recommendations for direction for staff.
Yes, sir.
One more. Policy requested. Did we talk about or did we discuss revenue sharing or partnerships?
We did not.
Okay, because I know that I've heard that multiple times from my colleagues, and I've seen it in other agencies where we can actually, and I would recommend finding some larger scale or looking at events because revenue sharing is an option as well. A lot of these large scale events will partner with cities to bring events to their community. AGI or Live Nation, they do it. I know that we've had conversations with Old School Reunion about possibly in the past partnering with the city to host a similar event with some type of revenue sharing, and then in the future creating something that's not an immediate policy. That's something for possibly the next budget fiscal year because we have to budget for that, and that's large scale events. But I want to bring back something to the board so that we could talk about revenue sharing, so we can start profiting or generating money from the large scale events. But essentially, the smaller events, which I think Councilman Guyton said a few months ago, he wants to see something monthly or quarterly, something on the beach, music, entertainment. Lake Park's doing something every month. So we want to try to get to where we can actually have an event. And is that going to be through special events or is that in conjunction or partnership? So those are some of the things that I want to be able to see as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
We need to deal with these issues. They're asking us for direction and we keep scrolling past it. And that is why they're here for direction. And I think since it's after 9, we should deal with giving them direction on these issues because that is what they are expecting out of this workshop.
Is this your last slide?
I think I have 1 or 2 more.
All right, go through those 1 or 2 more, and we're gonna come back to this, what you need from us.
Okay. Okay, I think, hold on. Oh, I think this was just the last, as the mayor stated, special events is some of the events that, this is an estimated budget and some of the items that are coming online very soon. We have some jazz events either at the Municipal Beach or at Dan Calloway, Jazz Beneath the Surface, 4th of July celebration, that includes our fireworks and our concert in Bicentennial Park, our monthly family, youth, and movie nights. Those are for the family and the seniors. Halloween, family fight night, they want to see that back. And then we have additional monthly events like the Black History, Veterans Day, some of those things. So, and then and later in the year, we'll do either a multicultural or seafood festival. So these are some of the things that will be coming online and will be placed on the master calendar.
Okay. During our last budget session, which was about 8 months ago, it wasn't just me that requested looking at a monthly event. It was a consensus about looking at a monthly event. We're in March, going into April. The city manager, why haven't we had a monthly event all year?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Franks, do you have any information with regards to the events that we've done this year?
No, wait, slow down. I'm talking about an established monthly event like Lake Park, West Palm, Boynton. There's a reason for that. If all we have is political tension and we don't provide some type of activity so our residents can come together in a non-controversial environment, it keeps that tension high. It's part of planning communities. They have monthly events, other communities, for a reason. It's not just to have fun. I think it's to reduce some of the tension of everything that's be going on within that city. We ask you to do that. And I'm disappointed that you still haven't done it. And you kind of move on your own pace, but I don't appreciate that.
All right,
Madam Chair, I do want to say, I mean, they're good to have. I know one time we were doing them and it wasn't well attended. So at one point we stopped, but that has, nothing to do with what we talked about in budget, but I don't know that that would ease any tension or cause.
Well, it's
any-
not just the East
Yeah.
tension. You don't have a community without any activity. The activity is a part of planning a community.
Right, and we
And-
have some though. We do have
No.
we have more than some cities have.
We need a monthly event.
I hear what you're saying about a monthly event,
Madam
but I don't think
Chairman.
that'll change any tension though.
I think that what that looks like is the reason why they're here tonight, that they need some feedback on what we need to do, how we need to do it, how many events, are they monthly, are they from us, are they sponsorships? I think how much they're gonna cost, there's a cap that we're talking about. So those are the things, and especially the fact that we don't have any money. So with that being said, we have to look very carefully at how we do special events, especially when the city has to spend money, period. So
Yeah.
that's where we are with that. Now, and I understand your position, Mr. Guyton, sorry, Commissioner Guyton as well. But what we want to do now is just to provide this feedback, and I hear you, and I think that
Okay.
we're gonna close this out with this recommendations for you. Mr. Evans, we need to look at our April meeting, putting this next item on as a discussion item. I think that some of the information as it relates to public decorum, that kind of thing, was sent out today to all the board members, and they have a chance to look at it so that we can come back and discuss that. But that should be on our next agenda for that. But back to Ms. Aledia. Now, you're telling me that you want us to provide you with what? Just tell us what you want us to provide information on.
Well, I've been taking some notes. I know that with the mayor. Sorry, I thought I had put it somewhere. I know one of the for us to follow up is regarding the elected officials. So you would like more of a structure in regards to either it's going to be quarterly, how many, and what that looks like. So I'll work with the
Yes,
staff on
and,
that.
and the cap, meaning that
and
we want to know
capping.
exactly how much everything costs. Police, fire, fencing, whatever it is that does not come out of our budget, but actually is coming out of the city. We need to know exactly how much that costs so that we can look at a cap for all of those services.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I'm looking at these budgets and I look at the 4th of July as a perfect example. And I know we're not New York City and we're not going to get Macy's to come and sponsor the Riviera Beach fireworks display. But I'm sure there are other smaller, medium-sized corporations that would love to have their name
Yes.
on the Riviera Beach 4th of July,
Mm-hmm.
celebration. And they would probably do a much better job than we do. Not that we don't do a good job. I think we did a great job last
Thank
year.
you.
But I think that we could
Excellent.
probably do even more with other people's money. So I think it's very important for us to reach out to these private corporations to help co-sponsor some of these large events like the MLK Parade. These are large events that people that get a lot of
And I
PR out of this.
You are
Tremendous.
absolutely right, and I think that this conversation that we're having needs to really focus on not sponsorship that the city is giving, but sponsorship that we can receive, because we have hundreds of businesses in this city, and they attend a lot of these events themselves. We just have not asked them. We got 2 car lots at the end of a 9 to 5 in Blue Heron. Huge car lots that I'm sure $25,000 for them would be nothing. So we have to reach out to these businesses to be able to, and I know that whole political thing, but we have to
Well,
look at that. But go ahead,
That's-
Mr. Evans.
Yep. And Madam Chair, I will tell you, sometimes when we partner with an event, the event partners reach out and they utilize our name, image, and likeness for the purposes of seeking sponsorships. And so when we go and say, hey, do you want to sponsor the 4th of July? They said, wait a second, I sponsored an event 2 months ago. I thought that was your event. And so some of the things that we're really going to tighten down is that if we are contributing to the event monetarily or providing, we need to know, and we were even talking about a prohibition. You can't go and get sponsorship on our name and our facilities for the purposes of defraying your cost, but not sharing that in fact with the
I
city.
see.
So those are some of the things that
I
we're
see.
experiencing. And
Yes.
even some of the
Yes.
departments, we've even told some of the departments, don't go to certain companies asking for things, because instead of getting 25,000 from Cheney Brothers, we get 5,000 because they've given to all these other advisory boards or groups or things like
Yeah.
that. So
And I
Madam
think
Chair?
that needs to be a policy that
Mhm.
anybody in the city, unless it's coming from the city, need not be asking anyone for any money on the city's behalf. Because
Mhm.
even if we do a sponsorship, say for this room, people will go out and use the city's name saying, hey, we're having an event and the city is sponsoring us and could you give us some money? But we don't see a dime of it.
Right.
And that's a problem. So that needs to be something that we have to have in policy, that no department, no anybody can go out and use our name to be able to get money, period. Because then what happens is that, and I'm gonna say this again, people come and they ask for money from the city and then they charge for stuff. And then I'm saying, why are you charging for something and we giving you money? Where's our money back? So that goes into the profit sharing piece, and that goes into the fact that if anybody gonna make money, it needs to be the city.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
who from staff is slated to go after the sponsorship?
A lady.
And that's why the manager is speaking on it. It has become so difficult because everybody hands their hand in the pot. So it's making it difficult because I want to create those partnerships, but they are saying, hey, I already gave 25,000 here, or I gave, and that's why Mr. Evans is sharing that with you. It's very difficult.
Yes, so again, who from staff is slated with going after these sponsorships?
It will be me for special events.
So in addition to overseeing the 60-plus elected officials,
Mhm.
events, the events that you're going to host and special events, I think you had about 10 up there. The events with the city and staff, you're also going to go get sponsorships for your events as well. Okay, let's be realistic now. Are we going to have and then also what's the process and what's the policy for receiving these sponsorships through finance?
If
Are
I
we
may.
able? Go ahead.
Similar to other cities, Mayor, thank you. Like the city of Wellington, they have a sponsorship package. So everything is online, so you'll be able to click on it, and then you can become a sponsor. So everything will be automated. It won't, and it'll be, of course, through our finance department. We'll assign job codes, so we'll know how much money is coming in. So it'll be a process. Right now, everything is just coming in manually, but I looked into Wellington, Orlando. They have a sponsorship package where if you want to be a sponsor, even with Del Rey, you can select that event and become a sponsor for it. So all of that is to, of course, put it out there so everyone will have an opportunity to become a sponsor.
So I think it's just like you said, though, when you bring back the updates to the policy, just make sure that we have a clear direction to how we're going to fundraise and get sponsors, and then having a proposal for the website and what's going to be the process for these companies, so we can just direct them. Because
Right,
there's so many different organizations that we just got to direct to. Please go to the city website on the special events permit and go ahead and fill out their sponsorship application, and then having it delineated as to what does the sponsorship come from. So we can talk more about that, but I know that we want to try to get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, and then too, before you go, how do you, Mr. Evans, how do you avoid that? How do you stop that from other people using our name to be able to get money for an event that's at the city? We gave them money already.
Yep. So, Madam Chair, if I may, a couple of things, right? It is a situation where we're seeing people utilize our name and our partnership for the purposes of monetizing their event, but also it's just the use of our logo. We see people that put our logo on flyers and there's no explicit authorization. So we're going to clean up those things and then provide for in the policy. If you are partnering with the city of Riviera Beach and you can't go out and seek sponsorships and then ask us for monies or ask us. So you have to make the decision. Either you're going to go ahead and make the sponsorship route and get all these partners, or you're going to have the city of Riviera Beach be the underwriter for some of these events and even some of the name recognition. If we are a principal or primary sponsor, it should be the city of Riviera Beach in partnership with, Riviera Beach Cadillac presents the 4th of July celebration.
Cadillac, really?
I'm just, if they're out there, we'll take it, right? Yeah. But those types of things are opportunities. And I would tell you, if we can narrow that down, We have a bunch of Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. When I was the rec manager in Celebration, we would get $300,000 for our singular wireless. All these different things would come in when you did put those events in place. So there's opportunities for us to work with partners.
And I think that's the bigger issue here, because we don't have any money. I think that we need to focus on that, getting sponsorship from these we have Fortune 500 companies in this city. We have Coca-Cola here. We have Pepsi here. These are big companies, and we need to utilize that to be able to not spend the city's money and, sponsored by Coke in the city of Revere, whatever. But because we're talking about money here, we're talking about money that we don't have, which means that we need to focus on that. But go ahead.
And through that, right, we provide, and in my past experience, when I did partner with Cadillac, they put 2 vehicles in front of the stage. We set up a test drive track in the park so people can come and they had a sales force. So there's concessions that we would make to be able to accommodate that, partnering up with the hotels. Anyone that's staying in Riviera Beach at this hotel, you get a VIP seat at the 4th of July. The hotels underwrite the VIP area. So there's ways to do it. But again, we have to have a situation where we back persons out of going to asking all our businesses 140 times versus us going 5 or 6 times for some of our major events. So we're going to codify that in policy, clean that up, and pursue those opportunities, because just 4th of July is an easy event. We should be able to get $30, $40, $50,000. There's no reason why we can't get the fireworks paid for from a sponsorship.
Right. All right, very
Madam
good.
Chair.
So Ms. Franks, now you have it where we're gonna come back and you got it, right? We all good?
No, go back to that slide.
No, we didn't even,
Which one?
Are we?
No, go back to
Okay,
that
all right.
slide, the slide.
the recommendations.
The policy one where you.
The one that you said, the
Change
recommendation.
direction.
Direction one.
The recommendation,
That
yeah, that one.
Right here, guys. Is there anything you'd like to add? or-
Distinguishing municipality program events. I can't do it.
From external events.
So
We don't.
we
have
didn't
it.
talk, no, we didn't. Distinguishing municipal programmed events from external events?
Yeah, we
Talked
got
about
that.
it. Those were the 3.
The sponsorship
partnerships we did.
versus the council.
Right. All right, number 2. Codifying the
Yeah,
concept,
we'll
we
do
got
that.
that.
Yes.
Streamline process for city events, we got that.
Mhm.
District event framework. Do we streamline process for city events? Do we have that?
Have we streamlined it?
We're gonna
But
have
by
to
getting your feedback and everything, but it just,
Yeah.
yes.
And
bring something back.
And Madam
All right.
Chair, if I may, one of the things we also want to clean up and differentiate a facility rental versus a special event. If I'm coming in to rent a facility, there should be things provided for in the facility rental that I don't have to go through what are the special events process. So if I'm renting the event center and the event is in the interior, the reservation should say, okay, X amount of people, X police officers, X, et cetera, et cetera. If somebody is paying for that and they're not asking for anything from the city, as long as they comply what's provided for in the rental form, we can process that. Right now, some of it, depending on that, requires it going through a special events process. And so we want to streamline and differentiate facility rentals as well from bona fide special events. So that's something that we're going to obviously work with the CRA and the use of those spaces. So we'll be able to tell you, this is a rental, these are the rules for rentals, process it. They're not asking for anything from the city. They just want to have the
Like a
use of the
wedding
space.
or
Like a
something.
wedding
Right.
venue. All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just have a question in regards to distinguished municipal program. I guess I'm still not clear. So, but if we distinguish municipal program, I'm sure when it comes back, we can talk more about it. But there's an event that's coming up. Did we have direction for, I think, Old School Reunion? That event was discussed at the budget workshop in September, when we finalized the budget. And I don't think that they've gotten clear direction or final direction as to how they're going to proceed with partnership, sponsorship, or anything. And I know we had these talks at our budget meetings. Where are we going with that, Ms. Franks?
Well, tonight, I was hoping that we'll have some clear direction, as far as, because their ask originally was 118,000. And they did provide a detailed sponsorship. We did also request some documentation as far as financial documents to make sure that, so he did submit some of the items, but right now, it's a contingent, that's 118,000. So he did revise the proposal to request the use of the new city stage, the fencing, and the venue for the CRA.
And then also for that type of event, large scale, we want to look at revenue sharings for future, because that was something that was discussed tonight, but maybe future, we could talk about partnerships in conjunction with or hosted by the city of Riviera Beach. But even with that sponsorship, I think that what's the timeline going to be as to when it's going to be presented or brought back to the board? Because these organizers, that's bringing something to the city, whether we're partnering with them or they're actually just sponsoring the venue, they need to know well in advance, because I think the event is next weekend. And we still haven't made clear direction. So you're asking for direction tonight, but we can't vote on anything. So what is it that we're going to do?
All sponsorship requests come before the city council. So I think it was not only that, I think we had 4 more that also are.
Yeah, we
pending.
have a lot of events, but this one is, I think, well, I don't know what's the most pressing, because I don't know what the other ones are, but I don't think we're going to have another meeting between now and the event they're hosting. So essentially, we don't have clear direction for Ms. Frank, even after tonight. We don't have clear direction for Old School, and we haven't finalized. And I think moving forward, any of those large-scale events need to be included in the budget. I think that's what we talked about, and that's why they came with that amount, because I remember the workshop, we sat in the EOC, and we allocated $120,000 to go towards partnering with them. But being a week out, we still need clarity. And I think we're still in that gray area right now. And those are organizers plus the other 4 or 5 other events that are in limbo.
I don't think the proposal addressed revenue sharing at all.
Mhm.
I
No,
think
that's gonna be
it
for
was more
later.
in-kind services.
Well, we
So it
haven't, we
wasn't-
don't have a policy
yeah.
for revenue sharing. So if we
No.
don't have a policy for it,
Yeah.
that was what we gave direction back
Yes.
in October, September, August, to talk about revenue sharing partnerships and these. But now we're a week out. So being a week out and they still don't have direction, it's difficult. And then that's the issue we have with partnering with these organizations. So giving you clarity from the board, but then also understanding what's the timeline to bring it back to us.
Madam Chair?
I say that, whatever it is, it needs to be revenue sharing regardless.
I mean, that'll be going forward. We can't do anything about anything right now because we don't have the policy. We got to create the policy for it.
Make a policy right now.
Yeah.
Next
No,
fiscal
we
budget.
can't do that now.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Go ahead.
obviously in a workshop, you can't vote. However, you can provide, legislative intent as it relates to, I want staff to work and do those, and then we can come back and codify anything. So you can provide direction to me that I would feel comfortable with, and then as the administrator, I can do and facilitate whatever the pleasure of the board is, and then look to affirm the what the city did do, if anything, as part of the your subsequent agenda.
Madam Chair, have they presented, do we have that information on what was presented by the organizers for that
Madam
event?
Chair, this is I think we just heard about the modification to the request maybe a couple days ago.
Yes, we received the modification a couple days ago, where there was a change into the 3 items.
What was
of
the
this-
original request?
It was
And when,
a laundry.
when was that received? Because
Yes.
we don't have any of the information. I know it hasn't come before the board. So even if we give
It was-
intent,
Mhm.
I don't think the board can give intent to support without knowing any details, because that modification, what is the amount? What is it going to cover? What's the timeline? So
The Special Events Office did submit it, but because of the workshop was coming up, the items were pulled along with 4 others. So I was looking for direction, so that's why.
I remember it was pulled because we were supposed to talk about this about a month ago. So we're a week out and there's been no.
Okay, let's try to decide how we're gonna move forward now.
So what is the intent of the board for staff in regards to the upcoming 4 or 5 events that Ms. Frank
I
said was?
support the event coming up. I don't.
There's 5 events. And what's the cost for each event?
Old school.
Old school,
I
okay.
don't know about the other events.
Oh,
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Edwards, what the request is now is just for the stage, the fencing, and
The venue,
The
which
venue.
Mr. Mercius will have to
right.
approve that. Yes.
So there's no monetary request that was, the previous
in-kind.
request was
Was-
largely, I think, monetary
Yes.
heavy, where
Yes.
this is just the venue, the fencing, and the stage.
Madam Chair?
I support it.
And they will provide their own security and all of the other stuff. So yes, and what do we do in the past for this event?
I think the CRA sponsored the venue.
Okay.
I think that's
It was the same
All
thing,
right,
the
they did
venue, the
Mhm.
fencing and
Okay.
then, yeah.
Okay, is there any other event, because you said 4 more, is there any other ones that need like attention immediately? Because if so,
The
I
other
think
ones,
we can.
no.
I think we would convene a meeting with the board before these other events would come
Okay,
before
okay.
you. I think this is the only
This is the
one
main one?
between,
Okay.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, wait,
So can we
that's,
give him direction?
yeah,
So I believe I have enough legislative
Yeah,
intent
yeah.
from the board to proceed forward with assisting with the stage, the venue, and the fencing for the event.
all right, very good. So, Ms. Sprinks, we good with the rest of this? All right, very good. Any other questions from the board?
Madam Chair, we're going to go ahead and watch this again and
Watch
try
what?
to, the meeting, the staff.
They're gonna review the
Staff.
meeting, not
Oh,
us. We're not gonna watch it.
Staff, and we'll extract what we believe, and if anything, I'll work with with Ms. Edwards to send out maybe even a questionnaire to get some clarity. I am also gonna do that with the item that we couldn't discuss today. I'm gonna
Yes.
send you a questionnaire, and then I can facilitate individual meetings with you if you have any questions on that, but then I will bring a draft back for you to look at based on what your input is on the question.
Madam Chair, can I ask one more question?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you finished? I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Mayor Lawson,
Yes.
with regarding the Divine Nine picnic, is that
Yeah.
one of the 4 that's already been submitted?
Yeah, they submitted a special event, the Greek picnic.
The Greek picnic?
They submitted their proposal last night.
Okay.
So that's why.
And we're within the
Yeah.
time
It's
frame.
not until June, though.
And,
It's-
right, but I'm just saying.
I think it's in June.
They said,
Right.
yeah, they submitted a special, so we've got
Okay.
time on that. That's
Very
not till
good.
June.
Yeah.
They moved it from April because
Right,
of the
that's what I was
discussions to
thinking.
June.
Perfect.
So they have
Okay.
plenty of time for the Greek
Yes,
picnic.
Okay.
and that'll be at the municipal beach, I think they're proposing.
Yes.
All right, very good. Ms. Jacobs?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did want to bring to your attention, you were talking about us going out and seeking sponsorships. No one knows but staff. We went out for Family Fright Night. The city didn't pay for all of that. We actually had sponsors.
The Lowe's
And
all that.
also for the MLK parade, when we bring down the bands, we go out and we get lots of monies. So the city does seek sponsorships. It's just quietly done.
Madam Chair.
Okay.
I mean, that would be helpful for us to kind of know that you all have that support and how much you're getting and, so that we know, because as far as I'm concerned, it seemed like we paid for it, if we wouldn't know that otherwise, because we don't get the breakdown,
Right.
so.
Right. All right, very good. So we're on the same page. Your
Policy,
mic-
I want to make sure that between now and the budget cycle, because I know we want to do revenue sharing, but we can definitely create a policy and map something similar to what Miami Gardens does. I spoke with the commissioners and also Special Events Department. They have a great policy down there. So that's a good one where we can do a similar event where we can attract and bring in dollars, sponsorship dollars, and partner with them to generate large scale money.
Okay.
Organizers will do it, especially if we're going to support them in regards to cost. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Mayor, I've had some meetings scheduled, so to get more in depth with the partnership and revenue sharing. So
Thank you, ma'am.
that'll get.
Very good. Thank you. Any
Thank
other
you,
questions?
guys.
Thank you guys for your presentation. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Mr. Evans, make one announcement about our meeting coming up.
Yes, Madam Chair, in observance of the Passover holiday, we are not going to convene our normal meeting on April 1st. And so what we will do is we will move our meetings. We will have our April 15th meeting, and then we will take the meeting that is scheduled on the 9th and move that to the 13th. That is the meeting associated with the mayor's report.
Right.
So to observe Passover, it starts on sundown
1st.
on the April 1st, and then sundown, I believe, April 9th. So we are going to recognize the Passover holiday and not convene any meetings of the council until the 13th and then the 15th.
All right. Adjourn.